Chapter 380. Changes in the Five Heavenly Realms. TL Note. Translation will go down to a chapter daily. I will be editing previous chapters to ensure quality translation. The Five Elements Great Heavenly Realm. This term is too sensitive. So much so that Lu Shichen subconsciously ignored Wang Fusong's words behind her. After pondering for a moment, she did not express her stance on the spot. Just as her gaze was withdrawn from below, amidst the gazes of many cultivators in the Spirit Transformation Gorge, she turned into a rainbow light and returned to her resting place. Wang Fu and Dongfang wiped the cold sweat from their foreheads and hurriedly followed. Congratulations, Brother Wang Fu, for being able to strategize in front of Chief Lu. Your future prospects are boundless. Dongfang Yao transmitted his voice while flying. Don't use this to butter me up, Dongfang. Who is Chief Lu? Does he still need my advice? It's just being cautious. When it comes to future backlash, it's convenient to push me, who will offer suggestions, out as a scapegoat. How could you not see through it? Wang Fusong snorted coldly, extremely unhappy. Brother Wang Fu, many people want to be Chief Lu's scapegoat, but they haven't had the chance yet. Moreover, considering Chief Lu's character, I don't think he will. Hee. Dongfang Yao felt bored with himself, but his tone changed, sighing. There have been rumors before that the disputes between the law transmitters and the newly emerging Dao integrators of thousands of years have become extremely intense. I thought it was just an exaggeration. I didn't expect to see it today, but it's true. Wang Fusong also sighed slightly. Being forced to take a stand today, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. If successful, naturally, there will be great wealth and prosperity in the future. If it fails, the two looked at each other and fell silent. In the Spirit Transformation Gorge, after Lu Shichen and the others left, Li Fan also followed the returning team back to their residence. When Chief Lu's gaze fell on him, Li Fan knew she had successfully recognized him. However, what surprised Li Fan a bit was that she only paused for a moment, and this Dao integrator powerhouse no longer paid attention. At least you're the lifesaver of your daughter. You've finally met, and you just leave like this. Li Fan honestly felt a little surprised. But later, noticing the expressions of Wang Fu and Dongfang, Li Fan knew that perhaps his plan had not failed. However, Dao integrator powerhouses, especially those with heavy responsibilities, may need to be more reserved in their actions. So he remained calm and patient, waiting. As expected, when Lu Shichen transformed into a rainbow and left the next day, Wang Fusong came to visit. Received a special appointment at the last minute, heading to the Five Elements Great Heavenly Realm. Upon hearing the words of the fat man in front of him, Li Fan couldn't help but feel a joy in his heart at how smoothly things had gone this time. Congratulations, young friend, your wish has been fulfilled. The weight of the Five Elements Heavenly Realm ranks at the forefront among all the secret realms of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Moreover, due to its special status, the construction of the Tianshuan Spirit Locking Array has just begun and is still in its initial stages. This trip for young friend is a great opportunity to show your skills. If you put in a little more effort, claiming the top spot is not impossible. Wang Fusong's face was flushed with excitement as he smiled. Li Fan remained calm. I also want to thank the senior for his help. This kindness will be remembered by the junior. Wang Fusong waved his hand. Where's the need for such words? To be honest, this time, I also benefited from your light. However, there is something I need to remind young friend. Wang Fusong restrained his smile and said solemnly. Oh. Seeing the unusual seriousness on the other party's face, Li Fan also became serious. Please go ahead, senior. Wang Fusong said. Originally, there were other choices for the secret realm to go to besides the Five Elements Great Heavenly Realm. In fact, until just now, Chief Lu was somewhat hesitant about whether to send us to the Five Elements Great Heavenly Realm. However, a sudden event that occurred not long ago changed her mind. Li Fan's expression became somewhat serious as he waited quietly for the continuation. This matter is absolutely confidential, and currently, only a few people in the entire 10,000 Immortals Alliance know about it. Young friend must remember not to disclose it. Wang Fusong first admonished, then lowered his voice and said quietly, the Five Elements Great Heavenly Realm is now located at the junction of Tianshan and Tianshu provinces. But do you still remember, young friend, where this Five Elements Great Heavenly Realm was originally discovered? Li Fan immediately answered, how could I forget about this? The Battle of Tianling Province had an extremely profound impact on the entire Xuanwang realm. What do you mean by this, senior? Wang Fusong's gaze was profound, unable to hide his shocked expression. He slowly said, after the Battle of Tianling Province, our 10,000 Immortals Alliance spent a lot of effort to move the Five Elements' Great Heavenly Realm back to the hinterland, where it is now located. The original site of Tianling Province naturally became a place of emptiness. However, 3 days ago, the Alliance received an urgent report. In that void, there were inexplicable spiritual fluctuations. After sending people to investigate, the results were almost unbelievable. Wang Fusong paused, seeming to ease the shock in his heart. Then he continued, these spiritual fluctuations are present in 5 places. After repeated confirmations, it's a sign of a new heavenly realm, being reborn. Li Fan's eyes flashed with excitement as he stared at Wang Fusong. A new heavenly realm, a new 5 elements great heavenly realm. His words trembled slightly, full of undisguised shock. Wang Fusong nodded. How is that possible? Li Fan was slightly stunned. With his limited knowledge, the formation of any heavenly realm was supposed to be the result of fortuitous encounters and the passage of time. For Tianling Province to give birth to 5 complementary heavenly realms was already a miracle among miracles. However, after the 10,000 Immortals Alliance moved the entire 5 elements great heavenly realm away. How could new 5 elements great heavenly realms be reborn in the original location? What about the current 5 elements great heavenly realm? Has anything unusual happened? Thinking of Wang Fusong's so-called special mission, Li Fan asked immediately. There are signs of the 5 elements merging, and it's irreversible. Wang Fusong's tone was somewhat heavy. 5 elements merging, Li Fan frowned slightly. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? What will happen after the merger? He couldn't help but ask. Wang Fusong shook his head. Such a thing has never happened before. Chief Lu herself was astonished and shocked upon hearing this news. However, what can be confirmed at the moment is that after the 5 elements merge, the current 5 heavenly realms will not completely disappear. Instead, they will merge into a completely new heavenly realm. As for whether there will be drastic changes during the merging process, turning from a heavenly realm rich in various resources into a barren wasteland, no one can predict. Regardless, the plan to build the spirit locking array remains unchanged. With the sudden turn of events, Chief Lu has already taken the lead to investigate on site. We will have someone lead us there later. Chapter 381. Even a golden core cultivator can drive it, and its speed far surpasses that of ordinary nascent soul-body flight. Moreover, it can absorb external spiritual power as an energy source, so there's no need to worry about depleting one's own energy. In the spiritual energy-rich 5 elements cave heaven, its effectiveness is even more outstanding. As Qi Buyi spoke, the black and gold soaring shuttle in her hand flickered and split into identical replicas. They transformed into streaks of black light and flew to everyone. The soaring shuttle's wonders can be explored by yourselves later. Li Fan grasped the flying treasure in front of him, feeling a cool and refreshing sensation. When his divine sense touched it, a crisp mechanical voice appeared in his mind. Permission confirmed. Sub-Unit 016 has been activated. Current driver, Li Fan. The moment the soaring shuttle activated, instructions on its usage and various precautions appeared in Li Fan's mind. Li Fan's eyes lit up, impressed yet slightly regretful. What a treasure! In terms of speed, it might be even faster than Zhang Shintong's 7-colored divine light. But it's just a sub-unit, with many functions restricted. Moreover, I fear the soaring shuttle's operating status, location information, and everything happening inside it will be monitored. Li Fan speculated privately. Before everyone could fully grasp the soaring shuttle, Qi Buyi took out several dozen rectangular jade tablets and distributed them. Li Fan received one, and a black dot appeared on the palm-sized tablet. Qi Buyi. When his divine sense touched it, he sensed these 3 words. Then options like communication, marking, transmission, and sharing appeared. This is the Heavenly Overseer's record, equipped by the Alliance for your convenience in cooperation. It already contains a complete map of the 5 elements cave heaven. After logging your information into the Heavenly Overseer's record, your real-time location can be synchronized and shared. Anyone holding a Heavenly Overseer's record can check it at any time. Qi Buyi explained dutifully to everyone. Moreover, in case of special situations, you can mark and explain positions on the map for information exchange. If you need to contact a specific member, you can do so through the Heavenly Overseer's record. Now, please log in. Li Fan pondered for a moment, then his divine sense pierced into the jade tablet. Moments later, a small black dot representing Li Fan appeared on the tablet screen. One by one, the surrounding cultivators also appeared on the Heavenly Overseer's record. Li Fan moved, zoomed out the screen. Instantly, the entire map of the water attribute cave heaven appeared before his eyes. In addition to the black dots representing people, there were blue markers for rare item locations, red markers for dangerous areas, and a few times markers for forbidden zones not recommended for entry. There were even gold markers that moved constantly, indicating powerful primordial beings within the water attribute cave heaven. Li Fan eagerly synchronized all the map information into the crystallized Dao stone in his sea of consciousness, storing it securely. This kind of map. While stealing the Wangxian Alliance's secrets, Li Fan suddenly found the map familiar. After a moment, he realized. Back when the green bull pulls a cart, Confucius teaches, incident resulted in the mysterious deaths of dozens of cultivators, he, as the sole survivor, underwent investigation by the Tianji Hall. There, he saw a similar map, marked with numerous secrets of the entire Kongyan Sea. The Heavenly Overseer's record, It seems that it's not just Kongyan Sea and 5 Elements Cave Heaven. Perhaps every territory under the Wangxian Alliance has such maps. As Li Fan pondered, Qi Buyi began mobilizing the group. The situation is urgent, and there's little time for rest. Later, I'll sync the plan for constructing the spirit locking array in the 5 Elements Cave Heaven with everyone. Specific responsibilities for each person will be clearly assigned. You just need to follow the established plan and execute diligently. Of course, it's even better if anyone can exceed their task. Qi Buyi concluded, as you saw on the Heavenly Overseer's record map, besides our Wangxian Alliance, there are some primordial beings in this water attribute cave heaven. Although powerful, they haven't developed high intelligence. They mostly stay in fixed locations and won't actively attack people. Just avoid them. If you encounter danger, use the soaring shuttle to escape. After giving instructions, Li Fan received his mission target. Since the 5 Elements Cave Heaven was about to merge, the Spirit Locking Array's construction plan slightly differed from other regions. The main array structure was set up outside the Cave Heaven's void. Inside the Cave Heaven, only key nodes had corresponding connection array units built. Then, they were protected with special materials. The protection material was said to be Eternal Tribulation Gold, capable of withstanding chaos destruction. Such a treasure would naturally be arranged by key personnel. Li Fan's task was the same as before in the Qijia Abyss and Huoling Ravine. He was just a laborer building the foundational structure units of the array. However, he had few complaints. After Qi Buyi announced the start of the operation, Li Fan took out the soaring shuttle and mentally commanded it. The black and gold object instantly seemed alive, flowing like liquid and enveloping Li Fan. In the blink of an eye, it formed a droplet-shaped armor around him. Soar. At Li Fan's command, his figure turned into a streak of black light under the soaring shuttle's wrap. He streaked across the sky. Personal spiritual power consumption is almost negligible. As long as there's some external spiritual energy, this speed can be maintained indefinitely. Li Fan experienced the driving feel of the soaring shuttle. During flight, the black and gold fluid around him gradually became transparent, allowing Li Fan an unobstructed view of the surrounding scenery. Friction and even sound were isolated. He hardly felt he was flying at high speed. Only the rapidly changing and slightly distorted scenery due to extreme speed indicated his current speed. The coexistence of extreme speed and tranquility made Li Fan slightly uncomfortable. But soon, a prompt from the soaring shuttle suggested adjusting the external sound volume. After tuning the sound to let in a bit, rather than complete silence, the discomfort vanished immediately. Locking onto the marked location on the Heavenly Overseer's record, Li Fan flew straight towards his target. Chapter 382, Chaos of the 5 Elements. TL note. If you want to support the translations, go to Patreon. Is this for secrecy? Li Fan glanced at Wang Fusong and found him looking nonchalant as usual. Tapping the table happily, he finished the Ling tea that had just emerged. The Ling tea of the 10,000 Immortals, this is quite something. It's said to be an ancient formula passed down from ancient times. After drinking it, there will be a slight increase in spiritual soul. 1 cup per person limit, why not taste it, young friend? With the Ling tea in his stomach, Wang Fusong patted his belly, took a deep breath, and beckoned to Li Fan. Following Wang Fusong's lead, Li Fan drank the 10,000 Immortals Ling tea in front of him. Compared to the effect of the Xuanwang heart refinement mantra, it was not in the least inferior. What a treasure! But he still showed great joy. Just as he put down his teacup, Li Fan felt the dust-crossing boat beneath him sway slightly, and it slowly came to a stop. Could it be that something happened? Li Fan looked somewhat surprised as he glanced at Wang Fusong, who was slowly getting up. Don't just sit there, we should have arrived at the Five Elements Grand Cave. Wang Fusong said. So fast? Li Fan was slightly stunned, then inevitably somewhat surprised. It should be noted that in his perception, it had only been a moment since they departed. Li Fan was also well aware of the maximum speed of the dust-crossing boat. So, does this mean that the Five Elements Grand Cave is not far from the Zupai city? As if sensing Li Fan's thoughts, Wang Fusong smiled and said, forget it. This dust-crossing boat not only shields our perception of the external space but also affects our perception of time. Do you think it's only been half a day? In fact, it could have been 7 or 8 days. Of course, it's also possible that it's only the time you perceived. It's to keep you guessing. After the previous incident with the Purple Dome Immortal, the Alliance has become more cautious. As Wang Fusong shook his head, he walked towards the deck. Affecting the perception of time passing, Li Fan felt a sinking feeling. This was his first encounter with time-related techniques within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. But it could also be just a simple distortion of perception. Suppressing his thoughts, Li Fan followed Wang Fusong onto the deck. Stepping out of the cabin, he was met with an almost substantial water attribute spiritual energy, unlike anything he had ever seen before. Having spent years in the Kong Yun Sea and having once cultivated with the Kanghai Pearl, Li Fan was particularly sensitive to water attribute spiritual energy. So he felt more and more horrified. This should be the water attribute cave of the Five Elements Grand Cave. It's like an enlarged version of the concentrated Kanghai Pearl. Li Fan subconsciously absorbed and refined the spiritual energy, gaining a clearer understanding of the purity of the spiritual energy here. But looking around, Li Fan found that the surrounding cultivators, including Wang Fusong, all raised their heads, gazing up at the sky. Their faces were filled with indescribable shock. Li Fan also followed suit and looked up. At this moment, where the dust-crossing boat was located, was a perfectly smooth boundary line. Below was the vast and endless blue water world without boundaries. Above was a giant tree rooted in the sky, with countless branches extending to connect with the water world, hanging upside down. Each branch was as broad as a plain in the mortal world. You could vaguely see many vegetation growing on it. Some tree trunks even had continuous forests of trees again. Originally, the water attribute cave was simply a blue water world. But not long ago, the scene of the wood attribute cave suddenly appeared outside the water world. The two began to gradually merge. This is the phenomenon of the convergence of the five elements. At this moment, Qi Buyi suddenly appeared, also looking up at the magnificent scene in the sky, explaining to everyone. The convergence of the five elements. So, is there any sign of the invasion of the metal attribute cave below the water world? A cultivator on the boat couldn't help but ask. Qi Buyi nodded. Underneath the endless water layer, you can indeed see endless golden light. However, it is not the invasion of the metal attribute cave. It is the water attribute cave invading the metal attribute cave. Just like the wood attribute cave above our heads. Gold generates water, water generates wood. But now it's the other way around. Wang Fusong interjected. So in the end, after saying this, Wang Fusong suddenly became shocked, staring blankly at Qi Buyi. It's not as simple as you imagine. Qi Buyi walked to the side of the dust-crossing boat, enveloping a mass of water with spiritual power and demonstrating it to everyone. Before the convergence of the five elements, the water quality in the water attribute cave here was extremely pure. But now, Qi Buyi flicked a spark into the water mass. Something astonishing happened that amazed everyone present. The total volume of the water could obviously extinguish the spark flicked by Qi Buyi. But after encountering the spark, it unexpectedly started burning fiercely. Under the gaze of everyone, it burned brighter and brighter. Eventually, it formed a lump of black scorched earth. Li Fan could see clearly that this bizarre phenomenon was not caused by the strength of the spark. It was because the water had changed its nature. It had become flammable. Is this still water? Wait, there's so much water in this cave. If it were all ignited at once, what would happen? Everyone on the dust-crossing boat looked at each other, deeply concerned. Qi Buyi seemed to perceive everyone's worry and said, the changes you see only occur when the water is taken out separately. When it exists as a whole within the entire cave, it won't be ignited and turned into earth. Upon hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. As for why this phenomenon occurs, there is currently no clear answer. That's also why we're here. The abnormalities occurring in this cave are different from the usual convergence of the 5 elements. The Alliance is very interested in this. According to previous estimates, the convergence of the 5 elements will be completed within 5 years at most. And with the process accelerating, this number is likely to decrease significantly. What we need to do is to ensure that before the complete convergence of the 5 elements, the Tianquan locking spirit formation covering the 5 elements Grand Cave is completed. In addition to the group of pioneers who have already arrived, there will be reinforcements arriving one after another. We are part of it. Mainly responsible for the coverage area of the water attribute cave. Qi Bui explained the purpose of this mission very professionally to everyone. Even though it's just a cave, it's extremely vast. It's even larger than the territory of a province in our Xuanwang realm. Most areas here have not yet set up teleportation arrays. Relying solely on flying is too slow. For the convenience of future work, the Alliance has prepared some special tools for you. With that, Qi Bui took out a black gold droplet-shaped object and displayed it in front of everyone. This is the Heavenly Escape Shuttle, a flying treasure specially crafted by the Alliance. Speed: extremely fast. TL note: if you want to support the translations, go to Patreon. Chapter 383, Records of the 100 Matters Guiding the Heavens. TL note: if you want to support the translations, go to Patreon. Even golden core cultivators can control it, and its speed can far surpass that of ordinary nascent soul flying techniques. Moreover, it can absorb external spiritual energy as a power source, without worrying about self-consumption. Its effects are even more outstanding within this spiritually abundant 5 elements subworld. Qi Bui spoke, and in her hand, the black golden escape shuttle shimmered, instantly splitting into identical replicas. Transforming into strands of black-colored light, they flew in front of everyone. The miraculous aspects of the escape shuttle, everyone can explore later. Li Fan took the flying treasure in front of him, feeling a cool sensation in his hand. As his divine sense made contact, clear mechanical sounds appeared in his mind. Authorization confirmed. Number 16 sub-body activated. Current controller: Li Fan. At the moment the escape shuttle activated, information about its usage methods and various precautions appeared sequentially in Li Fan's mind. Li Fan couldn't help but brighten his eyes, feeling both impressed and somewhat regretful. Good treasure. In terms of speed alone, it's probably faster than Zhang Shintong's rainbow light. But it's only a sub-body, all functions need to be restrained. Not only that, I'm afraid the operation status of the escape shuttle, location information, and everything that happens inside it will be monitored. Li Fan speculated inwardly. Before everyone could fully grasp the escape shuttle, Qi Bui took out dozens of rectangular jade pieces and distributed them. Li Fan received them, but black dots immediately appeared on the palm-sized jade pieces. Qi Bui. As divine sense made contact, the 3 words were instantly sensed. Then, options such as communication, marking, transmission, and sharing emerged. This is the records of the 100 matters guiding the heavens, specially equipped for everyone in the Alliance for convenience in cooperation. A complete map of the 5 elements subworld has already been drawn inside. After registering personal information in the records of the 100 matters, real-time location synchronization can be achieved. Those who possess the records of the 100 matters can view it at any time. Qi Bui continued to explain diligently. Not only that, if encountering special circumstances, everyone can also explain their current location through marking on the map for information exchange. When there's a need to contact a specific member individually, it can also be done through the records of the 100 matters. Now, please register first. Li Fan pondered for a moment, then his divine sense penetrated into the jade piece. After a moment, a small black dot representing Li Fan appeared on the screen of the jade piece. One after another, cultivators around also appeared synchronously on the records of the 100 matters screen. Li Fan's heart stirred. Under his manipulation, he shrank the screen. Instantly, the map of the entire water attribute subworld appeared before his eyes. In addition to the black dots representing individuals, there were blue-marked locations of rare items, red-marked dangerous areas, and 1 or 2 times marks indicating forbidden zones not to be approached. There were even moving golden marks. Those were powerful primitive beings in the water attribute subworld. Li Fan eagerly synchronized all the map information into the Tao integration jade in his sea of consciousness, firmly preserving it. This kind of map mode. Li Fan, who was stealing secrets from the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, suddenly felt the map in front of him somewhat familiar. Immediately afterward, he realized. Initially, due to the green bull pulling the cart, master teaching incident, dozens of cultivators died inexplicably. As the sole survivor, he underwent investigation by the Tianji Hall. There, he had seen a similar map marked with numerous secrets of the Kong Yun Sea. Records of the 100 Matters, It seems that it's not just the Kong Yun Sea and the 5 Elements subworld. Perhaps every province under the 10,000 Immortals Alliance has such maps drawn. Just as Li Fan was contemplating, Qi Bui had already begun mobilizing. Things are urgent, and there isn't much time for everyone to rest. Later, I will synchronize the soul-locking formation construction plan of the 5 Elements subworld to everyone. Each person's duties will be allocated very clearly. Everyone just needs to execute the established plan diligently. Of course, if anyone can exceed the mission, that would be even better. Qi Bui concluded, just as everyone saw on the records of the 100 Matters map, besides our 10,000 Immortals Alliance, there are still some primitive beings present in this water attribute subworld. Although they are powerful, they haven't developed high intelligence. They basically stay in fixed locations and won't attack actively. Just avoid them. If you really encounter danger, use the escape shuttle to escape. After the instructions were given, Li Fan received his mission objectives. Because the 5 Elements subworld was about to converge, the plan for constructing the soul-locking formation differed slightly from other areas. The main formation layout was arranged outside the subworld's void. Inside the subworld, corresponding connection formation units were only built at key nodes. They were then protected using special materials. It ensured that even after the convergence of the 5 elements, the formation would remain intact. The protective material was said to withstand the test of chaos and destruction, the eternal chaos gold. Such treasures naturally required key figures to personally arrange them. What Li Fan needed to do was no different from what he had done before in the abyss of Roar's Gorge and the Spirit Transformation Gorge. Just acting as a laborer to build the foundational structure of the formation. However, there were hardly any complaints. Once Qi Bui announced the start of the operation, Li Fan took out the escape shuttle and silently chanted. The black golden object instantly seemed alive, flowing like liquid, enveloping Li Fan's body. In the blink of an eye, a droplet-shaped armor formed around Li Fan's body. Escape. With Li Fan's command, his figure, enveloped by the escape shuttle, turned into a black streak. Tearing through the sky, the consumption of spiritual power is almost negligible. As long as there is some spiritual energy outside, this speed can be maintained indefinitely. Li Fan experienced the sensation of driving the escape shuttle. During the flight, the black golden fluid around him gradually became transparent, allowing Li Fan to observe the surrounding scenery without hindrance. Friction resistance and even sound were isolated outside. There was hardly any sensation of rapid flight. Only continuous changes in perspective and slightly distorted scenes due to the excessive speed proved Li Fan's current speed. Extreme speed and extreme tranquility, both contradictory situations, appeared simultaneously. It made Li Fan feel slightly uncomfortable. However, soon a message came from the escape shuttle in his mind, indicating that he could adjust the external volume. After reducing the ear's sound to a trace, not completely silent, the discomfort immediately disappeared. In his mind, he locked onto the position marked on the records of the 100 Matters, and Li Fan flew straight toward the target. TL note. If you want to support the translations, go to Patreon. Chapter 384, Li Fan sets up the formation. TL note. If you want to support the translations, go to Patreon. Looking at the map, the distance between Li Fan and his destination almost spanned half of the water cave heaven. Li Fan estimated that if he relied solely on flying, it would take at least a month or two to reach there. However, with the escape sky shuttle, it wouldn't even take a day. After just over 7 hours, Li Fan arrived at the marked location. His speed gradually slowed down, and the black golden fluid around his body slowly recovered. When Li Fan stopped, it reverted back to a small droplet-like object and was stored in his elixir field. Li Fan surveyed his working environment for the next period of time. Below was still an endless expanse of blue water. Above, it seemed within arm's reach. a giant tree branch extended from the sky, making intimate contact with the water attribute heaven. However, what surprised Li Fan was that the vibrant trees should have flourished even more after contact with water. But the huge tree branch in front of Li Fan was completely desolate and decaying. The gray-yellow trees were incomplete, riddled with many hollows. They seemed like they could break and fall at any moment. Whether it was an illusion brought about by Li Fan staring at them for a long time or not. From those dead branches that had been gnawed on, he actually saw many fragmented human figures. When he withdrew his gaze and looked again later, that feeling disappeared. Li Fan shook his head and took out the Heavenly Supervisor record, carefully studying the construction plan again. Just when he inspected the surroundings a moment ago, the plan had already been updated. 5 more cultivators had been added as his assistants, bringing along logistical supplies. Li Fan didn't wait for them. The Heavenly Supervisor record emitted a radiance, pointing towards the sky. After confirming the coordinate nodes, Li Fan immediately began constructing the soul-locking formation. Unlike the time in the Abyss of Roars when he needed to guard against the devouring white mist and the abyssal demonic sounds, there was hardly any danger in this water attribute heaven. The spiritual energy was dense, which was even more conducive to the formation construction. Unrestricted, Li Fan was able to act freely. After years of heavy training, Li Fan's speed in setting up formations in a normal state had once again improved. As if it were an instinct engraved in his soul, there was no need for him to think at all. With just a casual movement, wherever his intention went, the formation instantly formed. Li Fan felt neither joy nor sorrow in his heart, just pushing forward the formation arrangement with an absolutely efficient and terrifying speed. For a moment, he was lost in his work. By the time the support group of 5 arrived, they saw Li Fan totally focused, constructing the soul-locking formation with unprecedented ease, as if he were freely splashing ink on a canvas. They were not newcomers to formation construction. But compared to the formation masters they had encountered before, both in terms of speed and gracefulness in setting up formations, it was clear that they were far inferior to the current white-haired golden core formation master before them. The 5 exchanged glances. Is this person really only at the golden core level? Li Fan seems somewhat familiar. Wait, could it be that Li Fan? No mistaking it. He truly deserves to be the one who tirelessly fights on the front lines of formation construction until death. His proficiency in formations is simply astounding. Ah, it's our fortune to be able to cooperate with him. The 5 communicated with each other using their spiritual senses. Afterward, they didn't disturb Li Fan and instead began constructing their own base on the water's surface below. Although they had heard that Li Fan was extremely hardworking and didn't need rest when setting up formations, having a foothold for special circumstances was still necessary. Furthermore, the few of them couldn't withstand several years of continuous work without rest. This work was also a piece of cake for them. With their combined efforts, a small base suspended above the water's surface was completed in just 3 days. Afterwards, they began inspecting and verifying the formation units that Li Fan had already constructed according to the procedure. The results even surpassed their expectations. They had heard of some formation geniuses setting up formations swiftly in the past. But the structure of the soul-locking formation was extremely complex, containing countless formation units. Plus, external environmental factors could cause mistakes even for the most outstanding talents during construction. But the formation Li Fan had laid down had absolutely no flaws. He was tireless, efficient, and precise. All of this was happening on a golden core cultivator who was advanced in age and on the brink of passing away. It was simply inconceivable. The 5 couldn't help but admire him deeply. As time passed, the area where Li Fan had finished setting up the formation rapidly expanded outward. With each completed formation node, the 5 became even more sincerely impressed by Li Fan. Because this person was indeed, as the rumors said, unfamiliar with the concept of fatigue, never resting for a moment. As a result, even they, the 5, were starting to feel a bit overwhelmed. But they didn't dare to have the slightest complaint. And so, a year quietly passed by. When the area covered by the completed formation extended to a radius of 5,000 miles from the initial node, the tasks originally assigned to Li Fan and his group were almost completed. Originally planned to be completed within 3 years, I didn't expect it to be finished in just 1 year, said Yan Heng, a nascent soul stage cultivator among the 5, as he looked at the formations in the sky. Finally, we can take a good rest, he said, filled with exhaustion and weariness etched on his face. The others nodded incessantly, in full agreement. However, when Li Fan finished the final formation construction, he paused in the air for a moment but showed no sign of resting. Instead, he continued to extend the array towards the outer periphery. Master Li, what are you doing? That area is clearly no longer within our scope of work, exclaimed Yan Hang, who had already prepared to relax. Quick, look at the Heavenly Supervisor record, the work plan has been updated. Master Li actively requested assistance to help the surrounding formation masters set up formations. We must cooperate to the best of our ability and not slack off. With each person speaking, the hearts of the group sank. Despair showed on their faces. After a while, they finally recovered. Yan Heng gritted his teeth and encouraged everyone, if Master Li is working so hard, we have no reason to refuse. Brothers, let's hold on a little longer. One of them sighed, we have no choice but to do so. If we retreat now, it'll be a disgrace. I don't mind. What I'm worried about is Master Li. Haven't you noticed that he seems to be aging more rapidly? After this reminder, the others suddenly realized. They carefully observed the figure not far away, still standing tall despite its aging appearance. Everyone was shocked. It does seem to be the case. He didn't have many years left to begin with, and now, with such intense effort, his lifespan is being depleted even faster. What should we do? They exchanged glances. No, we can't just watch Master Li perish before our eyes. Report this situation immediately, Yan Heng said in a deep voice. TL note. If you want to support the translations, go to Patreon. Chapter 385. Wood water generates decay. TL note. If you want to support the translations, go to Patreon. Biological age. 882-899. Working tirelessly, Li Fan glanced at the anchor point panel. The consecutive selfless efforts were not without cost. When Li Fan emerged from the state of complete immersion, akin to enlightenment, in the formation process, an uncontrollable sense of weakness surged up. Under extreme pressure, his biological age increased rapidly. Now, Li Fan truly reached the end of his life. It's time to rest. This thought involuntarily popped into his mind, but immediately, he regarded it as the main material for the reverse training Tao heart. Suppressing all slackness and exhaustion. If I don't push myself harder, how can I seek transcendence in this extremely dangerous cultivation world? Li Fan said to himself inwardly, then rallied his spirits, forcing his aging self to burn the last moments of his life, once again engaging in the formation work. The expressions and reactions of Yan Heng and others below were all within Li Fan's expectations. In fact, they didn't need to report to him. When Li Fan applied to cross-regional work with the recording tablet just now, he had already explained his current physical condition to Qi Buyi. After Qi Buyi's unsuccessful persuasion, he readily agreed to Li Fan's request. Theoretically, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance should extend my lifespan. But nothing is absolute, I also need to prepare for the unexpected moves of the Alliance. Fortunately, I have contributed enough, and there is still a longevity fruit left. When necessary, whether to buy or exchange, I can also find some life-extending items. Striving for a bit more time in this world. After Yan Heng and the others submitted their report, it seemed to sink without a trace, without any ripples. While the 5-person group was puzzled and disappointed, Li Fan himself seemed unaffected, earning their increasing admiration. So, amidst the calmness, another half-year passed. On this day, the serene water subworld suddenly underwent a drastic change. The azure water world unexpectedly trembled violently without warning. Caught off guard, Li Fan's formation process was forcibly interrupted. Subconsciously wanting to observe what was happening around, but feeling like the whole world was spinning, dizzy and unable to do so. Fortunately, Yan Heng and the others reacted very quickly. The moment the mutation occurred, they flew to Li Fan's side, taking out various protective treasures to surround and shield him in the center. Within the protective barrier formed by layers of radiance, they finally managed to somewhat isolate the impact of the external upheaval. Only then did Li Fan see clearly what was happening in this water-attributed subworld. The straight line where water and wood intersected seemed to be squeezed by a tremendous force at this moment, creating a wave-like distortion. The perpetually calm water surface was now churning with towering waves. Rising high into the sky, it connected with the invading wood-attributed subworld above. Amidst the immense, thunderous friction, the giant inverted tree above the heads of everyone seemed even closer. The pointed branches continuously extended downwards, becoming incomplete and desolate upon touching the water subworld. But this only slightly slowed down their growth momentum, as they still steadfastly pierced through the boundary between the two realms. The originally pure and tranquil water attributed spiritual energy between heaven and earth gradually became chaotic. Li Fan and the others watched solemnly as the drastic changes unfolded in the subworld. However, they had already received a reminder from Qi Buyi through the recording tablet. Everyone, don't panic, this is a sign of further development of the 5 elements integration. It's progressing even faster than we expected. It seems everyone needs to speed up their progress. Be cautious of the changes that may occur when the two realms intersect. Report promptly if you encounter any special situations. Once change occurs, there's no stopping its momentum. However, human adaptability is also terrifyingly strong. Soon, Li Fan and the others became accustomed to working in the environment of occasional surging waves and thunderous friction. For them, these disturbances affected their state of mind at most, but posed no actual threat. The real danger came from the strange creatures born during the fusion of the water and wood realms. These were monsters formed from the fallen debris of the inverted giant tree that had mixed with both water and wood attributes after falling into the water subworld. They came in various shapes, all composed of withered wooden bodies. The azure water flowed incessantly on the surface of their wooden bodies, resembling blood visible on their exterior. They possessed extremely aggressive attacks and were highly sensitive to the aura of cultivators. Even if separated by thousands of miles, they would spontaneously seek out the nearest cultivator to attack. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance had tried many methods, but so far, none have been effective. Thus, combat became inevitable. Although the bodies of these monsters resembled withered wood, their texture was unexpectedly hard. Even the full force of a nascent soul stage cultivator's attack could only leave superficial wounds on them. Fortunately, their method of combat was rather crude, and their numbers were relatively scarce. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance usually operated in groups of several people, engaging in collective actions. Relying on numerical superiority and excellent equipment to suppress them. By expending some time, they could eliminate the monsters without much danger. After each battle, Yan Heng and the others would meticulously report the process through the recording tablet. After collecting numerous data, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance also compiled the tactics for fighting these monsters and distributed them to every cultivator. In various subworlds, due to the different attributes involved in the fusion, different types of monsters appeared. The type of monster encountered by Li Fan and his group, where wood and water were merged with wood dominating, was named decaying wood. There were 2 most effective methods to deal with decaying wood. One was fire-attributed techniques. Under the scorching flames, burning wood and boiling water would turn decaying wood into flying ashes. The second was separation-type techniques. Completely separate the flowing blue water from the body of decaying wood. Decaying wood would then collapse on its own, transforming from a terrifying and ferocious monster into pure wood and water energy in the blink of an eye. The separation technique was not only useful against decaying wood but also remarkably effective when dealing with monsters of other merged attributes. Unfortunately, it was too obscure, and only a few cultivators mastered it. So, everyone had to rely on conventional techniques of various attributes to cope. With the summarized battle strategies, the cultivators became more adept at dealing with the monsters generated in the subworlds. However, most cultivators still remained anxious. On this day, another batch of withered wood debris fell, transforming into monsters resembling both humans and beasts, attacking Li Fan and his group. Quickly, the Yan Heng 5-person group rushed to meet them. While Li Fan set up formations, he observed the battle between the two sides. Compared to the initial encounters, these decaying woods have indeed made significant progress in their combat methods and techniques. These individuals separated from the inverted tree seem to possess a collective consciousness. Watching the intense battle not far away, Li Fan couldn't help but feel a sense of astonishment. This is just a fusion of wood and water attributes. If another one or even several more attributes are added, wouldn't the monsters become even more formidable? TL note: if you want to support the translations, go to Patreon. Chapter 386, External Threats and Internal Worries. It was evident that Li Fan was not the only one who noticed this. After the battle ended, Yan Heng and the others didn't show any excitement as they watched decaying wood turn to ashes in the raging fire. Damn, these monsters seem to have grown stronger again. Yan Heng glanced at the dried wound on his arm, his face ugly as he cursed. The other 4 also had varying degrees of injuries. Quickly report the situation of this battle. Hopefully, they will come up with a solution soon. Otherwise, I'm afraid we won't last much longer, sighed a cultivator named Li Shifeng among the 4. Yan Heng snorted coldly but didn't retort. He opened the records of 100 matters and closed his eyes to report. Li Fan was also checking the records of 100 matters. Compared to when they first entered the 5 elements subworld, the information recorded in it was much richer now. Overall progress of the Grand Formation is 78% complete. It's progressing faster than initially expected. But obviously, things here are getting somewhat out of control. I wonder what measures the 10,000 Immortals Alliance will take next. Li Fan's eyes flickered, his hands moving incessantly. Could the 10,000 Immortals Alliance really complete the construction of the Tianquan soul-locking formation on schedule? Li Fan could almost be certain that they would. Currently, the main force inside the 5 elements subworld consisted mostly of nascent soul stage cultivators. But the 10,000 Immortals Alliance was not lacking in nascent soul stage cultivators. Obviously, they hadn't fully exerted their efforts yet. If it's found that the current strength is insufficient to accomplish the mission, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance will naturally increase its input. As for whether the cultivators inside the 5 elements subworld at this moment could hold on until the reinforcements arrived, that was another matter. As Li Fan had expected, the constant increase in strength of the subworld's monsters caused widespread anxiety. Qin Buyi quickly came out to reassure everyone. Firstly, she explained to everyone that due to the principle of mutual restraint among the 5 elements, they believed that monsters merging with all 5 attributes wouldn't occur. The most extreme situation would only give rise to monsters merging with 4 attributes. But this extreme situation would only happen at the end of the process of 5 elements return to 1. What everyone mainly needed to deal with were monsters merging with 2 or 3 attributes. Secondly, the headquarters of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance was already aware of the current situation in the 5 elements subworld. Support would arrive soon. Furthermore, the scale of the reinforcements was quite large, with a total number of people exceeding the combined total of all the cultivators currently working in the subworld. There's no need to worry. Although everyone held a skeptical attitude towards Qi Buyi's words, they finally breathed a sigh of relief after receiving definite assurance. With emotions slightly eased, they worked nervously, awaiting the arrival of reinforcements. Time continued to pass amidst this tense atmosphere. In the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed since they entered the 5 elements subworld. During this time, there were indeed cultivators who came to support them. However, it was far from the large-scale reinforcements promised by Qi Buyi. Whenever questioned, Qi Buyi always came up with various excuses. However, 2 new Dao integration stage cultivators arrived, which somewhat reassured everyone. With the arrival of these new support cultivators, through their mouths, everyone learned the reasons for the delayed reinforcements. Externally, there had been significant unrest over the past 2 years. Firstly, there were external threats. The 5 Elders Association had redeployed troops to the borders, showing signs of probing and provocation repeatedly. Unlike before, they didn't seem to have the intention of initiating large-scale conflicts. Instead, they concentrated all their forces on Fengali Island, which was separated from Tianling Province. According to rumors from the grassroots, it seemed that the 5 Elders Association coveted the mysteries of the Tianquan soul-locking formation and wanted to seize the entire province from the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. They conducted a comprehensive and detailed analysis of the Tianquan soul-locking formation. However, Li Fan knew that this was just an excuse on the surface. The true goal of the 5 Elders Association should still be the void where the 5 elements subworld was nurtured in Tianling Province. It seems that the truth cannot be concealed forever. Indeed, in 2 years, the changes in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance in Tianling Province are enough to arouse their vigilance, Li Fan thought to himself. In addition to the pressure brought by the 5 Elders Association, there was also unrest within the territory of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. During this period, voices opposing the widespread use of the Tianquan soul-locking formation suddenly emerged from various places. And those who voiced these opinions were not insignificant figures. Most of them were cultivators with nascent soul stage or higher cultivation bases occupying important positions in various provinces. It's unclear what happened, but these cultivators, who had unanimously expressed absolute support for the construction of the soul-locking formation not long ago, suddenly changed their stance and clearly expressed their opposition. Moreover, their opposition was not just for the sake of opposition, but rather had ample arguments and reasons. This was their viewpoint. It is well known that no matter how exquisite a formation is, there will always be a day when it can be penetrated and cracked. In the past, there have been many instances where protective formations leaked, catching the 10,000 Immortals Alliance off guard. This is also why protective formations must be completely replaced at regular intervals. Now, after the 10,000 Immortals Alliance has painstakingly and at great cost constructed the Tianshuan soul-locking formation covering all its territories, can it guarantee that the formation will remain effective forever? If it's analyzed and cracked by the Five Elders Association shortly after completion, wouldn't that be a huge joke? In addition, these individuals also harbor doubts about whether the Tianshuan soul-locking formation can achieve the effects as advertised. Because the notorious thousand-faced demon lord, who has been haunting the territories of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, has become more rampant lately. Many high-ranking cultivators within the provinces have fallen victim to him. Even in the provinces where the Tianshuan soul-locking formation has been completed, it only slightly delays his killing spree. In the end, he still manages to slip away. Furthermore, even if he is captured, what then? Since the Five Elders Association can cultivate 1,000-faced demon lord, they can certainly cultivate 2 or 3. The original purpose of the Tianshuan soul-locking formation, as advertised, was to make it impossible for any Five Elders Association cultivator within its borders to escape detection. And now, while others wreak havoc openly in your territory, you are powerless. What use is this Tianshuan soul-locking formation? It must be said that these people's viewpoints are quite reasonable. So much so that when they raised their doubts to the 10,000 Immortals Alliance headquarters, it resonated with quite a few people. As the opposition intensified, the headquarters of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, instead of punishing these dissenters as usual, fell into a strange silence. It is in this backdrop that the whereabouts of the thousand-faced demon lord became increasingly elusive, and his massacres grew more ferocious. In addition to external threats and internal worries, Li Fan also heard an interesting story. Amidst the escalating tensions, in the border region between the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the Five Elders Association, the Nine Mountain Province, an organization called the Myriad Spirit Sect has recently gained momentum. It has truly attracted the attention of many cultivators. All because the Myriad Spirit Sect possesses a peculiar technique. A technique where the more people cultivate it, the faster the cultivation speed. Chapter 387, Man Can Overcome Heaven. From the creation of a new law by the heavenly sage, it was not long before cultivators relied on the technique of heaven-grasping cultivation technique for cultivation. The heavens and earth reacted, bringing about drastic changes. The more people practiced a certain technique simultaneously, the slower their cultivation speed. This is what is known as the impossibility of cultivating multiple immortal techniques concurrently. This is the present truth of the world, and it is the fundamental reason why techniques are so precious. However, now, in an obscure organization, a technique contradictory to the principles of the heavens and earth has emerged. Who would believe it? At first, cultivators dismissed it as a joke and paid it no attention. However, there were those who sought immortal techniques but had no access to them. With a mentality of giving it a try, they crossed mountains and rivers to explore the situation in the Jushan province. After joining the Myriad Spirit Sect and officially beginning to cultivate the Myriad Spirit technique, something shocking happened. Indeed, all members of the Myriad Spirit Sect were practicing this technique. From chi refining to soul transformation, practitioners were at various stages. Most importantly, the absolute truth that one cannot cultivate multiple techniques simultaneously seemed to be ineffective with the Myriad Spirit technique. There was simply no occurrence of cultivation slowing down due to an excessive number of practitioners. The facts were undeniable. No matter how incredible it seemed, that's how it happened. Soon, news of this extraordinary technique in the Myriad Spirit Sect spread throughout the entire cultivation world. The initial reaction of the public was that only an extraordinary heavenly sage could create such an effect by reversing the principles of the heavens and earth. However, the understanding of the heavenly sage was shallow among the people. Basically, they only gleaned a bit from the 5 spirit chi sensing technique, which stated, reversing the principles of the heavens and earth to achieve longevity. How to reverse, what constitutes a reversal, and to what extent one must reverse to achieve longevity, these questions were all mere unreliable speculations. It was not unreasonable for them to make such conjectures about the miraculous effects of the Myriad Spirit technique. Clearly, this speculation was wrong. After reading through the myriad spirit technique, the Venerable Hyang Yu of Tianqing province finally revealed the truth. The absolute truth of the heavens and earth, that techniques cannot be concurrently cultivated, had not been reversed at all. The reason why cultivators practicing the myriad spirit technique seemed unaffected was simply due to the inherent characteristics of the technique itself. Simultaneously, the more people practice the myriad spirit technique, the faster their cultivation speed. This is the effect of the myriad spirit technique. However, at the same time, due to the limitations of the heavens and earth, for every additional cultivator, the cultivation speed of the technique slows down. These two effects coexist simultaneously. The result is that one fast and one slow cancel each other out. The myriad spirit technique has become a technique that can be practiced with great difficulty. In fact, according to what Venerable Hyang Yu said, at the very beginning, when the number of practitioners of the myriad spirit technique gradually increased from 1 to 5, the restrictive effect of the heavens and earth was far greater than the characteristic of the technique's speed increase. For ordinary techniques, when 5 people practice together, even if you're a genius, you'll find yourself unable to make any progress. However, when the number of practitioners of the myriad spirit technique continued to increase from 5 to 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000, the speed increase effect became more and more pronounced, eventually barely offsetting the restriction of the inability to practice multiple techniques concurrently. This is somewhat of a man can overcome heaven, in a certain sense. But it stops there, because the speed increase effect of the myriad spirit technique also has its limits. After offsetting the negative effects of the heavens and earth, the effectiveness of the technique's accelerated cultivation speed becomes almost negligible. And apart from increasing cultivation speed, the myriad spirit technique has no other special effects. This also leads to the fact that for the vast majority of cultivators with choices, it does not qualify as a good technique. In addition, it seems that there are some other restrictions on the myriad spirit technique. But Hyang Yu did not specify. The myriad spirit technique is truly ahead of its time. In any other world, it would definitely be considered a shocking technique that defies the heavens. Unfortunately, it is heavily restricted in the Xuanwang realm. Li Fan muttered to himself as he listened to Yan Hang and the others chatting while constructing the array. Li Fan was not unfamiliar with this myriad spirit sect. It was the organization that Su Xiaomei and the others encountered initially, the one that set up toll stations in the chaotic area of Jushan Pass. That genderless organization, with its own peach blossom paradise, and the one I injured with my invincible sword, Chen Yuro, left a slight impression on Li Fan. According to Hyang Yu, only by gathering a large number of practitioners from the beginning and practicing the myriad spirit technique together is it possible to get started. In the chaotic land of Jushan province, being able to gather such a large group of people, the leader of this myriad spirit sect is also extraordinary. The infusion of fresh blood slightly eased the increasingly tense atmosphere within the 5 Elements cave. But it didn't last long. As the frequency of fusion monsters' appearances became more frequent, the cultivators struggling within each cave finally couldn't hold on any longer. When the first casualties appeared, some formation masters directly chose to stop working. Of course, they didn't openly announce it. They just covertly opposed the situation under the guise of dealing with monsters. Regarding this, Qi Buyi was a bit helpless. She couldn't just ask the 2 sitting ancestors to unleash a killing spree, right? Not to mention that the formation masters within the subworlds all had quite prestigious backgrounds. If she really did that, forcibly pressuring them might just backfire and lead to the construction of the 5 Elements cave formations directly grinding to a halt. This was a rare situation for Qi Buyi, and for a moment, she felt somewhat at a loss. She could only report the situation to Chief Lu while trying her best to appease everyone, to prevent a worse riot from happening. As for the storms outside, although Li Fan himself didn't care much, his efficiency in setting up formations inevitably suffered. Yan Heng and the other 5 were gradually struggling against the monsters, so he also had to allocate some mental energy to pay attention to the battle. At critical moments, Li Fan would even participate in the battle. Of course, only in an auxiliary capacity with formations. Just as the situation was gradually deteriorating, a thorough white light pierced through the entire 5 Elements cave. The reinforcements had finally arrived. An extremely massive dust-crossing boating boat spanned outside the void of the cave, occupying most of the sky. Cultivators flew towards various subworlds like densely packed black dots, orderly. And Li Fan, who had been staying in the water attribute subworld, also got a glimpse of the overall situation of the Five Elements cave for the first time. It seemed like interconnected rings, yet also like a mixed palette of colors. Clear and distinct, yet hard to distinguish from each other. As the light column gradually dimmed, the illusory scenes of the metal, fire, and earth subworlds also slowly disappeared. At the same time, the collaborative operation list in the heavenly record almost doubled. When Li Fan looked through it, he even saw many familiar names. They were the young formation masters who had trained with Li Fan in the Universal Institute and then returned to various provinces to participate in the grand competition. It seems that the 10,000 Immortals Alliance is really short-handed now. Even the reserves have been pulled over. Chapter 388, Are you unconvinced? TL note. If you want to support the translations, go to Patreon. Around 2.5 years ago, the most efficient array masters had already completed the construction of their respective soul-locking arrays. Some chose to rest, while others, for the sake of gaining points in the grand competition, went to support areas where the array formation remained incomplete. However, for secretive places like the Five Elements Great Immortal Realm, these young array masters still didn't have the qualifications to enter. Li Fan, too, relied on Chief Lu's relationship and the sudden change in the void of Tian Lingzhou to have the fortune to come here. Who would have thought that after 2 years, the place Li Fan painstakingly managed to reach would become accessible with just a simple application? Isn't this fellow Taoist Li Fan? It's an honor to meet you. A young array master named Shang Lu warmly greeted Li Fan. Since 2 years ago, fellow Taoist, your ranking has soared, steadily holding a position in the top 3, causing quite a stir and numerous discussions. Although everyone knows your deeds, there are still many fellow Taoists who are no less dedicated than you if we talk about working hard. At that time, people speculated that you must have been responsible for constructing formations in some extremely important subworld. And it turns out, it's true. Shang Lu looked at Li Fan with deep emotion, but there was no trace of jealousy in his eyes. On the other hand, Ji Yuguang, another array master, couldn't hide his envy. Fellow Taoist must have a profound background to have the opportunity to come to such a critical place. The points obtained within the Five Elements Great Immortal Realm are more than triple those outside. Li Fan coughed lightly, pretending to be extremely weak. Fellow Taoist misunderstood. My presence here is also just a coincidence, benefiting from Senior Wang Fusong's grace. Moreover, my end is near, and I will return to heaven soon. What use do I have for so-called points and rankings? Regardless of where I am, the difference is negligible to me. As long as I am engaged in constructing the soul-locking array. Hearing this, Shang Lu and Ji Yuguang both put away their playful expressions, becoming extremely serious. Fellow Taoists' actions are truly admirable. This is also why, although you are ranked second outside, there aren't many people who are dissatisfied. Li Fan also didn't expect that the point multiplier within the Five Elements Great Immortal Realm would be so high. Plus, with my non-stop hard work over the past 2 years, I unexpectedly managed to rank second in the grand competition. Who's in first place? Li Fan couldn't help but ask with some curiosity. Who else could it be? Isn't it that Guo Yi Zhang? Ji Yuguang seemed somewhat disdainful, speaking with great contempt. Brother Ji Yu, be cautious. Shang Lu glanced at Ji Yuguang, then explained, the one who's currently firmly holding the first place is the one who originally ranked last, fellow Taoist Guo Yi Zhang. Guo Yi Zhang, Li Fan's gaze flickered slightly, deliberately asking, why can he rise from last place to first? And judging by Brother Gu's tone. Before Shang Lu could explain, Ji Yuguang interjected, what else does he have? Isn't it just luck? It is said that after the battle in Tian Lingzhou, he was the first to propose the idea of the soul-locking array. So, for each soul-locking array constructed, he gets a significant contribution. That's how he can obtain a considerable reward in points. And with more and more formations being built now, naturally, no one can surpass him. Ji Yuguang said somewhat resentfully, actually, there's nothing to it. After all, he did make contributions to the formation's birth. What truly angers everyone is that he relies on the advantages he has gained, winning effortlessly, and even refuses to exert any more effort. He sees the efforts of his fellow cultivators as trivial, trampling on the meaning of our hard work. Seeing Ji Yuguang becoming more and more excessive, Shang Lu quickly interrupted him, actually, fellow Taoist Guo is still quite admirable, a natural talent. It is said that he not only proposed the idea of the soul-locking array but also personally designed and created its prototype. Moreover, it is said that he had 0 points before, only delayed by some urgent matters. It's not intentional. Gu Yuguang snorted. What, it is said? Who believes that? I've also heard that it's all because he has a good father. When fellow cultivators came to reason with him, not only did he not feel guilty, he even rationalized and boldly asked, "What, are you unconvinced?" Truly shameless. Thinking back to the time when I studied with such a person, it makes me feel disgusted. Shanglu looked full of resentment towards Gu Yuguang, unable to help but smile bitterly and shake his head, no longer trying to persuade him. Guo Yi Zhang, Li Fan recalled the encounter with this person in the Universal Academy. I really misjudged him. During the rest of the conversation, Guo Yi Zhang was not mentioned again. Just reminiscing about the past years of studying together, Li Fan asked them about their experiences in the outside world. After some casual chatting, they saw that it was almost time. The two of them then joined in the construction of the array formations within the water immortal realm. Shanglu and Gu Yuguang's array skills were not inferior to Li Fan's. With their assistance, the progress was greatly accelerated. Moreover, along with their support, there were also many cultivators from the garrison hall. They all carried a kind of glass bottle-shaped magic treasure that could release the dual-element glass light from the bottle. This mysterious light had a purifying function that worked wonders against the fusion monsters within the 5 elements great immortal realm. With no external threats, the overall construction progress of the Tianzan soul-locking array increased day by day. However, 4 months later, the progress reached 99%. At the same time, the process of the 5 elements merging into one was about to reach its final stage. In the sky, the giant upside-down tree had countless branches deeply inserted into the azure waters. Strangely enough, when the wood and water elements initially made slight contact, there would be continuous strange monster occurrences. Now that the true fusion of the wood and water attributes was occurring, those bizarre creatures never appeared. But as Li Fan looked at the green branches tainted by the blue water, the incomplete figures reappeared before his eyes. Fellow Taoist Li Fan, it's time to withdraw. Shanglu looked at Li Fan, who seemed lost in thought, and reminded him. Li Fan nodded slightly, unfurled the Sky Escape shuttle, and headed towards the enormous dust-crossing boat reappearing in the sky. Their work was no longer needed. As countless cultivators returned to the dust-crossing boat, dark figures flew against the crowd, heading towards various array nodes that had been previously constructed. They would use the Eternal Punishment Essence Gold to protect the crucial structures of the soul-locking array. When everything was ready, and the Tianzan mirror was in place, the soul-locking array covering the 5 elements great immortal realm would be considered completely constructed. I hope there won't be any more flaws. Li Fan thought to himself as he returned to the dust-crossing boat. Master, what do you think this subworld will become after the 5 elements merge into one? A curious voice of a young child sounded in his ear. TL note. Hey guys, Google AdSense keeps rejecting this site again and again. If you can, please consider joining Patreon. Go to Patreon. Chapter 389, 5 Elements Heaven's Secret Realm. TL note. If you want to support the translations, go to Patreon. Master. Hearing this term, Li Fan felt a bit bewildered. In the current cultivation world, cultivating oneself is not an easy task. Who would still bother with passing on teachings and solving doubts? Ever since he embarked on the path of cultivation, over these years, he had never seen a genuine master-disciple relationship. Curious, Li Fan looked towards the direction of the voice. He saw an old man and a child standing at the edge of the gigantic dust-crossing boat, both dressed similarly and emitting similar auras as cultivators. Both of them wore green robes. The old man had white hair but a youthful face, his complexion rosy. The child, on the other hand, looked weathered, with a demeanor as if he had seen through the world. What astonished Li Fan was that the tender voice he just heard actually came from the mouth of the white-haired old man. He looked puzzled, gazing down at the child beside him who asked. The child appeared to be only about 5 or 6 years old, but the words coming from his mouth were far beyond a child's speech. Everything starts from nothing and returns to nothing. The 5 elements return to one, merely reverting to their original state. The child in green robes replied with a smile. After pondering for a moment, the old man suddenly realized the answer and said excitedly, I understand now, Master. You mean, before long, this place will return to a state of chaos and emptiness, just like what we saw before. Am I right? The child chuckled, looking at the old man with kindness. You're correct. If left to evolve freely without external intervention, that's indeed what will happen. But if one day, outsiders intrude and take away some of the materials inside this paradise, then it's hard to say. The child looked at the 5 elements subworld below with a hint of lament. Upon hearing this, Li Fan was slightly taken aback, squinting his eyes to carefully examine the master-disciple pair before him. It was as if the old man and the child completely ignored Li Fan's presence. The old man furrowed his brows, seemingly pondering his master's words. After a moment, he suddenly enlightened, this paradise, where the 5 elements circulate and blend seamlessly, flawless and perfect. It can either divide into 5 or merge back into 1. But if outsiders take a portion from each element, it will cause imbalance. And then, at this point, the old man seemed to be stuck, unable to continue. The child in green robes smiled faintly and continued, actually, if it's just small-scale and long-term extraction, the 5 elements subworld relies on its own attribute circulation and self-regulation, which wouldn't lead to imbalance in the 5 elements. But if there's a short-term, large-scale plundering of resources from certain elemental paradises, the adjustment mechanism of the paradises couldn't keep up with the output, causing a complete imbalance in the 5 elements within this paradise. Master, what will happen after a complete imbalance? The old man in green robes asked curiously. The child in green robes now restrained his smile, saying, do you still remember the 5 elements sect that I mentioned to you before? The old man nodded, disciple remembers. The 5 elements sect is a subsidiary sect of the Great Tao sect. A few years ago, when their sect leader came to our Dust Crossing sect to pay respects, I saw them. At this moment, Li Fan, who was listening to the conversation between master and disciple, was greatly shocked. He finally confirmed that the 2 in front of him were not real beings on this dust crossing boat at all. They were like mirages, akin to illusions in the desert. The conversation between master and disciple seemed to be happening in the ancient cultivation world before the Great Calamity, when the sect still existed. Li Fan scanned around and noticed that while there was bustling activity on the dust crossing boat, for some reason, besides himself, no one else could see this illusionary scene. Without making a sound, Li Fan continued to observe the conversation between the ancient dust crossing sect master and disciple. The child in green robes continued, the 5 elements sect was actually quite powerful back then. Apart from our 10 immortal sects, they were one of the top cultivation sects in the Xuanwang realm. Within the sect, there's a secret realm called the 5 elements heaven. It's almost like a world of its own, incredibly abundant in resources. Compared to the large 5 elements subworld here, it's far superior. Relying on this secret realm, if the 5 elements sect had slowly developed and passed thousands of years, they might have become one of the top sects in the world. Unfortunately, the former sect leader of the 5 elements sect, Lan Xiangfang, had narrow-minded vision. At this point, the child in green robes snorted coldly, a hint of frustration flashing in his eyes. The old man in green robes widened his eyes, not daring to speak, waiting quietly for the continuation. After a moment, the child in green robes spoke again. At that time, it was said that the Heaven Sword sect needed a vast amount of Taiyuan essence gold to forge the legendary, boundary-breaking divine weapon. This Taiyuan essence gold is extremely rare, usually randomly found within metal ore veins, not something you can easily come by. The Heaven Sword sect has already searched almost every possible source on the market, but they're still far from what they need. It's said that within the 5 elements heaven secret realm of the 5 elements sect, there might be a large stockpile. So, the sect leader of the Heaven Sword sect personally went to plead. That notorious old man was so arrogant, yet he actually bowed to the 5 elements sect. Lan Xiangfang, the former sect leader, was suddenly overjoyed, feeling like he couldn't find his way. Moreover, the Heaven Sword sect offered a ridiculously high price, persuading all the elders of the 5 elements sect. So, the 5 elements sect began to dig extensively for Taiyuan essence gold within the secret realm. Just this action alone wouldn't have led to the tragedy that followed. But unfortunately, they were tempted by someone's persuasion, saying that since various metal ores were unearthed during the excavation, they shouldn't go to waste and should be sold. Other sects also heard about the abundance of metal ores in the 5 elements sect and came to purchase them. Blinded by greed, the 5 elements sect's excavation of metal veins became increasingly frenzied. Finding themselves short-handed, they even hired wandering cultivators. Finally, one day, the massive loss of metal elements led to an imbalance in the 5 elements heaven. Irreversibly, it evolved into a state of annihilation, heading inevitably towards the unity of the 5 elements. And then, when the missing metal elements couldn't satisfy the unity of the 5 elements, the remaining wood, water, fire, and earth elements began to collide chaotically, endlessly. The ultimate result was a massive explosion that completely destroyed the 5 elements' heaven. The entire 5 elements sect suffered losses that can't be described as anything but devastating. Their core strength was almost wiped out, and they never recovered from that blow. As the conversation ended, the child in green robes sighed incessantly. Listening in, Li Fan suddenly felt a chill in his heart. Wasn't the plight of the ancient 5 elements heaven just like what's happening in the present 5 elements subworld? In that case, after the unity of the 5 elements, wouldn't there be a catastrophic explosion here too? Cursing inwardly, Li Fan looked back at the ancient dust-crossing sect master and disciple, only to find their figures becoming more and more blurry. The words uttered from their open mouths became indistinct. TL note. Hey guys, Google AdSense keeps rejecting this site again and again. If you want to support, please consider joining Patreon. Go to Fantasy Stories 797. Chapter 390, Time Mirage. TL note. If you want to support the translations, go to Patreon. Although Li Fan didn't know why there would be ancient illusions at the moment when the 5 elements merged into one. And only he could see it. But Li Fan believed that the conversation between master and disciple were not groundless. Could the sudden convergence of the 5 elements in this great 5 elements subworld be due to the 10,000 Immortals Alliance exploiting the resources of a certain attribute subworld? Li Fan's thoughts quickly turned, and after a moment of contemplation, he decided not to sit idly by. Even if a major explosion occurred, it might not be safe on the dust-crossing boat. Li Fan quickly contacted Qi Buyi using the records of 100 Matters and told her about the strange scene he had just witnessed. To his surprise, Qi Buyi, upon receiving the news, showed no signs of panic. Oh, it turns out to be a time mirage. Friend, you're lucky, huh? I remember you only have golden core cultivation, right? You can sense it too. It seems that friend has a strong soul, far beyond ordinary people. After some explanation, Li Fan finally understood what this so-called time mirage was all about. Just like the mortal transcendence wall in Tianyan province once recorded the scene of Mr. Bai's mortal transcendence ascending in one step. When certain conditions are met, phenomena that are recorded in the world will occur and then repeatedly appear at specific times. And when the 5 elements merge into one, heading from being to nothingness, it is very easy to trigger the phenomenon of a time mirage. Several years ago, when the 5 elements merged into one in the Great 5 Elements subworld, a pair of master and disciple from the dust-crossing sect passed by. The master explained to the disciple. This scene happened to be recorded by the time mirage. Now, after countless cycles, the convergence of the 5 elements once again occurred. The scene of the master enlightening the disciple reappeared, and was sensed by Li Fan, who had a strong soul due to practicing the Xuanwang heart refinement mantra. Although Qi Buyi's explanation calmed Li Fan about the origin of the illusion, it didn't completely ease his mind. Li Fan frowned and asked, Senior Qi, will the explosion mentioned in this mirage really happen? Shouldn't we take some defensive measures? Qi Buyi smiled and replied, Don't worry, it's just a small matter. After we learned about the signs of the 5 elements merging into one, we predicted various possibilities. Including this explosion, it's all within our plan. Friend, just watch quietly. Besides, the Tianshuan locking spirit formation is almost completed now. Why bother adding unnecessary actions to make defensive measures? There was no response from Qi Buyi's side, but her words made Li Fan sink into deep thought. Is the Tianshuan locking spirit formation enough to ignore the imbalance caused by the merging of the 5 elements? A trace of doubt flashed through Li Fan's mind. Just as Zhang Ziliang had said at the beginning, even as the builders of the spirit locking formation, Li Fan and the others might not truly understand the true power of the Tianshuan locking spirit formation. Perhaps, in the current Xuanwang realm, only a few people know what kind of power the fully activated spirit locking formation will unleash. It's just right to take advantage of this opportunity to see what kind of supernatural powers our creations, which we've worked hard on for several years, will have. Li Fan still had doubts about whether a seemingly monitoring formation could withstand the explosion that would bring everything back to chaos. But since Qi Buyi said so, it meant that she would not let it go to waste. The existence of the eternal chaos gold used to protect the formation also indicated that the 10,000 Immortals Alliance had indeed made preparations. So Li Fan stood by the side of the dust-crossing boat, quietly watching below, waiting for the convergence of the five elements. The Great Five Elements subworld, like a mixture of paint, became more and more chaotic. The huge roars and collisions even pierced through layers of spatial barriers and reached the dust-crossing boat. The branches of the upside-down giant tree grew wildly, covering the azure sea. Fierce flames burned everything to ashes, giving birth to green wood in the midst of the ashes. Bizarre scenes completely contrary to the real world continued to unfold in the nearing end of the five-element cave. With the passage of time, the fusion of the five elements attribute subworlds became even tighter. In the sea area covered with roots, the rocks stood tall, twisted, and melted into scorched earth. Soon, flames were born from the wasteland, and wood and water intertwined. Slowly, as the process of the five elements merging intensified, these bizarre scenes no longer existed. There were simply colorful spiritual energies mingling and intertwining below, dyeing the cave below into an incredibly abstract painting. Li Fan concentrated, staring closely at the dying cave. The various colors became increasingly dull. The invisible darkness, like a fierce beast, swallowed the remaining colors. It became faster and faster. However, even after the area of the five-element subworld completely turned into nothingness, there were still many indescribable colors that seemed to linger. So, these overall grayish existences began to proliferate fiercely, like a constantly churning huge vortex, absorbing the surrounding blackness. The area below now looked like a rapidly expanding dying tray. As Li Fan stared at it, he suddenly felt dizzy and disoriented. However, he forced himself not to look away. There was a vague sense in his heart that observing this imbalance of the five elements explosion might be greatly beneficial to him. At this moment, the abnormality in the void below also attracted the attention of other cultivators. While they gathered to watch, there was no expression of worry on their faces. Evidently, they had great confidence in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. The colorful dying tray spun faster and faster, finally reaching its limit at a certain moment. A highly dangerous aura suddenly erupted from below. Li Fan subconsciously took a step back. Like the light of creation, it illuminated the dark void. An extreme whiteness was thus born, carrying the power to destroy everything around. Just at this moment, outside the void, a hint of green light suddenly appeared. Then, along the nodes of the Tianquan locking spirit formation built by Li Fan and the others, it expanded rapidly. Its speed was several times faster than the white light caused by the explosion. In an instant, countless intersecting green threads formed a huge network, completely shrouding the explosion area within. Then, before the cultivators could react, countless green threads jetted out from the main network autonomously. Endless, continuous. In the blink of an eye, the dazzling white light had disappeared. In its place, appearing before the eyes of the cultivators, was a huge cocoon enveloped in green light. With a slight movement, the cocoon suddenly shrank slightly, and the green color on the main network of the Tianquan locking spirit formation became even brighter. Like a beating heart, continuously transmitting energy. Amidst the stunned gaze of the onlookers, the green cocoon became smaller and smaller, until it disappeared completely, and the Tianquan locking spirit formation, which easily resolved the imbalance explosion of the five elements, was blooming with its own green brilliance in the dark void. Is this the power of the Tianquan locking spirit formation? Li Fan was also somewhat dumbfounded. He was very sure. Even in the ancient cultivation world where powerful individuals abounded, it would be impossible to resolve such a terrifying explosion so easily. But now, with the Tianquan locking spirit formation, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance had effortlessly accomplished this. Suddenly, a chill rose in Li Fan's heart. If defense was already this strong, could the Tianquan locking spirit formation also possess offensive capabilities? TL note. Hey guys, Google AdSense keeps rejecting this site again and again. If you want to support, please consider joining Patreon. Go to Fantasy Stories 797. Chapter 391, The Genesis of Tianquan. TL note. If you want to support the translations, go to Patreon. Thanks Fate for joining the Patreon. Update. You can read 16 chapters ahead for $10. I have removed all other tiers. I am also translating Great Shadow of Britain novel. It's a historical web novel. Do check it out on. A crisis vanished without a trace. After the calm, thunderous applause erupted on the colossal dust-crossing ship. The formation masters and many collaborative constructors, witnessing the formidable power of the creation they had labored over for years, couldn't conceal their excitement. Li Fan also joined in applauding, his face filled with contentment. However, a thought surfaced in his mind, one he couldn't suppress. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance had meticulously constructed the awe-inspiring Tianquan soul-locking array. TL note. Everyone, I am using soul-locking and spirit-locking interchangeably. They are the same thing. But after it was completed, would the 10,000 Immortals Alliance really let Li Fan and the other formation builders live? It wasn't that Li Fan was overly suspicious. Wars bring peace, but generals never see it, is nothing extraordinary throughout history. When mortal emperors built tombs, they would exterminate all the craftsmen involved to prevent leaks. Li Fan had little confidence in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. If they were only monitoring the Grand Formation, perhaps there was still a glimmer of hope for survival for the formation masters like them. But now, with the Tianquan soul-locking arrays showing such power, it was hard to imagine how much the formation might be hiding in the shadows. The stronger the actual power of the soul-locking array, the more bleak the prospects for the formation masters. Perhaps the delay in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance fulfilling my longevity wishes is related to this. Since we are all destined to die eventually, why bother with such extra efforts? Li Fan thought, feeling increasingly cold inside. Just as he pondered on future strategies, the exclamations of the crowd redirected his attention to the void below. After the great explosion, apart from the azure giant web of the Tianquan soul-locking array, the location of the five elements subworld was now empty. However, at this moment, visible surges of energy were spewing out from various nodes of the soul-locking array. Is that the five elements energy? After careful sensing, Li Fan's expression changed slightly. Using the void as a canvas and the various attribute energies previously absorbed as pigments, the Tianquan soul-locking array, like a sophisticated machine, bit by bit, reconstructed the destroyed Great Five Elements subworld. This process, comparable to the genesis of the world, unfolded unabashedly before the eyes of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. The azure waters surged, towering trees grew rapidly, and raging flames soared. The scenes within the former Great Five Elements subworld were rapidly reproduced at a speed far exceeding Li Fan's comprehension. This magnificent sight firmly captivated the minds of all cultivators on the dust-crossing boat. Not daring to make the slightest noise, they feared disturbing the grand creation of the Tianquan soul-locking array. Time passed slowly. After an unknown duration, a completely new Five Elements subworld appeared in the world. It had been remodulated by the Tianquan mirror, and although its scale seemed much smaller than before, it had restored the original balance of the five elements. After completing this masterpiece, the Tianquan soul-locking array, like actors after the curtain call, slowly disappeared from everyone's view, leaving behind a group of 10,000 Immortals Alliance cultivators, filled with nothing but silence and daze. Such methods. Li Fan took a deep breath, suppressing the shock and agitation in his heart, quickly analyzing with rationality. Different from true creation, it's not creating something out of nothing, but rather the recombination of matter. Moreover, this newly born great subworld also seems to lack the presence of living beings, just a domain of reorganized spiritual energy. Nevertheless, the power displayed by the Tianquan soul-locking array is extremely terrifying. It seems to have analyzed the unity of the five elements and then proceeded with reverse engineering. An empty great subworld without the presence of living beings, an inexplicable imbalance of attributes, the order given to complete the formation construction before the unity of the five elements by the prepared eternal chaos gold. Perhaps the intentional cause of the explosion in this grand cave was for the Tianquan mirror to complete the analysis of the five elements transformation. As if confirming Li Fan's speculation, after the completion of the new Great Five Elements subworld, many black-clad cultivators flew out from the dust-crossing ship. They each flew towards different grand subworlds, arranging the five elements living beings that were originally transferred. Before long, this newly born grand subworld slowly regained its vitality. At this moment, a notice from Qi Buyi came through the records of 100 matters. The soul-locking array of the five elements subworld was completed smoothly, and the dust-crossing ship would return to Tianquan province for a 3-day celebration. Not only were many rare spiritual foods and teas prepared for everyone to taste for free, but during the break time, constructing formations within the five elements subworld would still count towards the overall score at a unified and fixed speed. With this news, the cultivators, awakening from the shock brought by the soul-locking array, became excited. Since the soul locking array has not yet been fully constructed, there should be no imminent danger for the time being. Looking at the excited crowd of cultivators discussing, Li Fan thought for a moment, feeling that it shouldn't be time to face execution just yet. While pondering, Li Fan suddenly sensed some movement from an item inside his storage ring. Without showing any signs, he quietly entered the dust-crossing ship and found an unmanned cabin, retrieving the item. It was the key to controlling the Bone Pioneer realm, the left hand of White Bone. A faint ripple emanated from it. Li Fan sensed it slightly, his expression becoming somewhat absent-minded. Fellow Taoist, I haven't been able to contact you through Jade Slips for a while, so I can only inform you through this method. The 30-year lease period has expired. Does the Bone Pioneer realm need to renew the lease? If necessary, please contact me before the expiration date. Otherwise, the previous key will become ineffective, and you won't be able to enter the White Bone Pioneer realm anymore. The items and scenes left behind in the Bone Pioneer realm will be temporarily preserved for you for 3 months. After 3 months, I will proceed with clearance. A somewhat familiar voice sounded in Li Fan's mind. It was the true master of the Bone Pioneer realm, the cultivator who claimed to be the Purple Mist's immortal Venerable. At 9th year, Li Fan rented the White Bone Vanguard realm for 30 years from him in order to deceive the people leaving the realm. Now, nearing the end of the 38th year, the lease period was up. The Purple Mist's immortal Venerable sent an inquiry message. The construction of the Tianquan soul locking array began 29th year. I didn't expect 10 years to pass so quickly. After some thought, Li Fan didn't immediately reply to the Purple Mist's immortal Venerable. As the dust-crossing ship returned to Tianquan province and cultivators indulged in feasting and celebration at the Thousand Stars Academy, Li Fan came alone to the Dao discussion tower within the city. Renting a secluded courtyard, Li Fan casually set up protective formations and entered the White Bone Pioneer realm. Leaving behind 4 miniature Medicine King cauldrons, he then activated the 5 Elements Annihilation Sword, damaging all his arrangements. Using his permissions, he left behind an image in the Vanguard realm. Returning to the real world, Li Fan destroyed the left hand of White Bone, completely severing the last connection with the Bone Pioneer realm. Clone handled the purchase of the Bone Pioneer realm in this world. From now on, no matter what happens, they shouldn't trace it back to me. TL note. For now, I am going along with this thinking. Realm less than subworld less than great subworld. TL note. Hey guys, Google AdSense keeps rejecting this site again and again. If you want to support, please consider joining Patreon. Go to Fantasy Stories 797. Chapter 392, 10 Years Lost. TL note. If you want to support the translations, go to Patreon. So many years have passed. If things go as expected, the Medicine King True Cauldron in the Kangwu Abyss should have appeared by now. I hope Su Xiaomei and the others can hold on to these 4 small cauldrons, so that I can peek into the secrets of the Medicine King Cauldron. Before leaving the Dao Discussion Tower branch, Li Fan once again checked the Tianquan mirror. Firstly, he checked the rankings of the Grand Competition Gold List. He still firmly held the unshakable 2nd position. After more than 2 years of crazily accumulating points within the 5 Elements subworld, he had already opened up a considerable gap with the 3rd place. If nothing major happened next, it was likely that he would end up with this title. As for the 1st place, Guo Yezhong, due to his insurmountable and unique points deduction, was far ahead of Li Fan. Currently, there seemed to be no hope of surpassing him. Li Fan stared closely at Guo Yezhong's name. Dissolution Disc, TL note, not sure what this means. Any ideas? Perhaps the 10,000 Immortals Alliance never intended to send it out at all. With a cold snort, Li Fan closed the rankings and checked the messages he had received over the years. Due to being in various secret realms, communication talismans couldn't communicate with the outside world. The vast majority of messages were sent to the Tianquan mirror space. Mostly, they were just greetings from He Zhenghao, Jing Xuandao, and others, without anything important. Li Fan swept through them. Finally, he checked his own merit level. Derivation 31. Seeing this number, Li Fan couldn't help but feel a jump in his heart. Indeed, it's the 1,000-year plan of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. I only participated in the construction of 3 major formations, and my merit level skyrocketed to 31. If one were to leisurely complete merit tasks, I'm afraid it would take a lifetime to reach this height of golden core cultivation. Participating in the construction of the Tianquan Soul Lock formation had merit rewards. And after completing each formation, real-time settlement would be conducted. This was clearly explained by Ji Hongdao when mobilizing earlier. After reaching a merit level of 31, new privileges were unlocked. Firstly, there were some small benefits. One could apply for free visits to certain famous places in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, such as the previously seen Divine Treasury Museum. Furthermore, one could apply for cross-regional, same-level transfers of duties. If He Zhenghao had had this privilege from the beginning, he wouldn't have had to trouble the Oracle Sons and Jing Xuandao, he could have directly transferred to Tianyu Province. In addition to this, what Li Fan valued more were the decryption of some forbidden data. Many previously inaccessible pieces of information could now be seen by Li Fan in the Tianquan Mirror. For example, the information about the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's entrance examination, which occurred every 10 years. Li Fan's eyes flickered as he quickly noted down the questions for 9th year anchor point. Just as Li Fan was eagerly browsing through various pieces of information, 2 days passed in a hurry. On the final day of rest, Li Fan received messages from Ji Yuguang and Shang Lu. They had both looked around but couldn't find Li Fan's figure in the Qingxing branch. Feeling somewhat worried, they sent inquiries. After Li Fan replied that he was safe and sound, at the last moment, he returned to the celebration venue. Inside the Qingxing branch, the lights were brightly lit. People were coming and going, creating a lively scene. Feeling a bit tired, so I went to rest for a moment. Please forgive me, Li Fan said with a smile. Shang Lu and Ji Yuguang nodded repeatedly, seeming very understanding. But it's a pity, Ji Yuguang shook his head and sighed. Oh, what's the matter? Li Fan asked. Shang Lu continued. Friend, you don't know. Yesterday, the renowned, ethereal fairy, of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance came to offer condolences. It's truly regrettable that you missed the chance to see her beauty. Ji Yuguang also agreed. The ethereal fairy, incomparably beautiful, was rare to see. The images of collected cannot capture even a fraction of her charm. That beauty transcends the limits of language. Only by seeing it with your own eyes can you understand how truly extraordinary she is. Li Fan thought it was just about a woman. He chuckled and shrugged, unconcerned. I'm an old man at death's door, why would I care about such things? Ji Yuguang couldn't help but solemnize and lowered his voice. If friend has the chance to see her beauty up close, it might not be impossible to change one's fate against the heavens. The ethereal fairy, her constitution is special. You understand. Li Fan shook his head with a smile. Shang Lu also sensed that this topic was a bit untimely and immediately changed the subject. Friend, what are your plans next? Senior Qi has already publicly displayed the overall construction progress of the spirit lock formation inside the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. All cultivators who participated in the construction of the 5 elements subworld can freely choose their next goals. As he spoke, he took out a jade-like crystal from his storage ring and handed it over. After Li Fan took it and examined it, he was somewhat surprised. How can the construction progress be so fast, compared to what he had seen from Wang Fusang over 2 years ago? The current construction progress of the spirit lock formation was almost entirely completed. The overall progress was close to 95%. It's all because of those voices of opposition causing trouble. Ji Yuguang shrugged. Recently, the waves of opposition against the Tianquan soul lock formation have been getting stronger and stronger. In some places, there have even been incidents of using force to stop the construction. Although they were immediately suppressed, it also indicates the danger of the situation. To avoid too many complications, everyone has been going all out and not resting for a moment during this time. Shang Lu also sighed deeply. I really don't understand why some people have such strong opposition. If they were to see the performance of the spirit lock formation in the 5 elements subworld, they would definitely change their minds. Ji Yuguang said earnestly, it's a pity that Senior Qi has already instructed that it's top secret information and cannot be leaked. Otherwise, we could just tell them. Li Fan nodded in agreement on the surface, but inwardly he scoffed. If those opponents were to see the power of the spirit lock formation with their own eyes, they would probably stop it at all costs, even at the risk of their lives. It doesn't matter. When the Tianquan soul lock formation is truly popularized, all doubts will be dispelled without effort. Just as the 3 of them were speaking, suddenly, the voice of Qi Buyi came from nearby. Li Fan and the others were startled and quickly bowed to her. Qi Buyi waved her hand, her face slightly flushed, seemingly having drunk quite a bit of spirit wine. She said to Li Fan, "Rest assured, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance will never mistreat those who have contributed. The matter of extending your life has been approved, and treasures will be delivered soon. If nothing unexpected happens, the extra lifespan will be enough to sustain you until you break through the nascent soul stage." Shang Lu and Ji Yuguang were both overjoyed at the news. Li Fan also showed a grateful expression and thanked Qi Buyi. As they were talking, a ray of sunlight shone into the Qingxing branch. It's dawn, just like this dark night will eventually pass. Under the Tianshuan Soul Lock, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance will surely usher in an incomparably bright future. Qi Buyi's gaze was unfocused, but her tone was incredibly firm. Li Fan and the others nodded in agreement. Just then, many pieces of information appeared in Li Fan's mind out of nowhere. It was the site of the mysterious disappearance of his previous clone. Yuandao Province, 10 years of disappearance. In an instant, Li Fan's expression couldn't help but change. TL note. Hey guys, Google AdSense keeps rejecting this site again and again. If you want to support, please consider joining Patreon. Go to Fantasy Stories 797. Chapter 393, Mysterious Heavenly Fate. TL note. Join Patreon to read 20 advanced chapters. Please go to Patreon. Friend Li Fan, are you alright? Qi Buyi and the others noticed that Li Fan's expression suddenly became somewhat unpleasant, and asked with concern. Li Fan showed a forced smile. Maybe I'm just getting old and not used to the lively atmosphere here. Suddenly felt a bit uncomfortable. Ji Yuguang felt a bit guilty. I shouldn't have bothered you during rest. Li Fan waved his hand slightly. Brother Ji Yu, don't worry about it. I'll go back and rest. Shang and Ji Yu nodded repeatedly. Before leaving, Qi Buyi looked at Li Fan and suddenly asked, "Can you tell me, in the past few years, although you have known that your time is running out, how did you maintain such an optimistic and fearless state?" Shang Lu and Ji Yuguang also looked curious. Li Fan paused for a moment and said calmly, "Treat every day as the last day, and then there's no fear of death." Just that. There was a strange light in Qi Buyi's eyes, nodding slowly. "Next, before the end of the grand competition, I will arrange for you a slightly easier but still important task for the construction of the soul-locking array. Consider it something you deserve." After a while, Qi Buyi spoke again. Li Fan showed no excitement on his face, just calmly said, "In that case, thank you, Senior Qi." Then bid farewell to everyone and returned to the small courtyard rented at the Dao Pavilion. In the secret room, Li Fan sorted out the sudden reappearance of the memories of the Avatar in his mind. And also recalled some of the countermeasures his main body had taken earlier. Taking out the blank jade slip from the storage ring, sure enough, the content was restored. When the Avatar Xiaofan and Han Yi left the headquarters of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, they decided to travel together to the Yuandao province. At that time, it was close to anchoring for 29 years, and the 10 years disappearance of Yuandao province incident was about to occur. To test the influence of the it lurking above the Yuandao province, Li Fan recorded this matter in a cryptic manner on the jade slip only he knew about. For comparison, Li Fan also inscribed the words Dao and Source on 2 blank jade slips respectively. As Li Fan had expected, when the time entered the 29th year of anchoring, Li Fan unconsciously lost all memories related to the Yuandao province and everything associated with it. Even the existence of the Avatar in the Yuandao province was forgotten by himself. Not only the memories, but the records in the jade slip also became completely blank. Only the words, Dao, and Source, inscribed separately remained. TL note. Yuan can be translated as source. Can't remember, can't recall. Li Fan's expression became extremely solemn. If it weren't for the fact that I couldn't create the Avatar, it would be extremely difficult to notice anything. However, even so, knowing that something is wrong and happening, I still couldn't recall anything about the Yuandao province. Until now, anchoring for 39 years, the disappeared Yuandao province reappeared on the earth. In fact, even now that I know what happened to the Avatar, but they are completely unaware of all this. At the same time, in the Yuandao province. Friend Xiaofan, what's wrong? Han Yi turned to look at Xiaofan, surprised. They were currently heading to a remnant of the heavenly capital. It is said that in ancient times, the heavenly capital was suspended above the 9 heavens, known as the origin of Tao, the leader of all sects. Later, for unknown reasons, the heavenly capital fell to the earth, forming more than 10 relics within the current territory of the Yuandao province. Their purpose in this trip was one of them. He had a premonition that there might be a great opportunity waiting ahead. With this in mind, Han Yi glanced at Xiao Fan again. This person's fortune is obscure and difficult to discern. According to the heavenly fate scripture, it's either that his fortune is too strong, beyond what I can currently discern, or his fortune is too weak, almost non-existent, so it cannot be discerned. He can obtain the longevity fruit of 300 years, which definitely belongs to the former. Perhaps this trip can make use of his fortune. Han Yi secretly thought. The heavenly fate scripture was the cultivation technique he practiced, created by an extraordinary figure who observed the ancient divine bird, the heavenly fate phoenix. This technique is the reason he obtained the top prize at the fishing contest and started the heavenly feather pill in the blue feather treasure box. The heavenly fate scripture had many mysterious uses, but the most core aspect was the ability to control one's own fortune. According to the scripture, the fortune of living beings is not constant, but constantly interacts with the outside world. If one cannot control their own fortune, then in each successive stroke of luck, it will be continuously diminished. And practicing the heavenly fate scripture, one can usually converge their own fortune, avoiding wasting it on unnecessary matters. When the critical moment arrives, one can then burst out the accumulated fortune all at once. Thus, achieving almost a state of achieving whatever one desires. Of course, side effects are inevitable. After the outburst, there will be a long period of decline. During this time, it can be said that even drinking cold water would feel like having one's teeth stuffed, and everything would go wrong. The solution is to find someone with strong fortune and follow them closely. Use their fortune to resolve the crisis. However, the avatar Xiao Fan could not know Han Yi's thoughts. At the moment when the disappeared 10 years were restored, the experiences shared from his main body flooded into his mind. But his senses did not perceive any loss of time. The tremendous contrast brought about a sense of dislocation, making the avatar feel extremely uncomfortable. However, he didn't show it in front of Han Yi. He remained calm and flew alongside him. Xiao Fan, it's nothing, just suddenly remembered some past events. With that, the avatar looked up at the sky, his expression inexplicable. Han Yi, oh, friend Xiao, have you also been to this Yuandao province? Han Yi asked curiously. Hee, that's something from a long time ago. As they chatted, the two with their own agendas set off towards the remnants of the heavenly capital once again. Meanwhile, at Li Fan's original body in the Tianshan province, after realizing the feelings of his avatar, he also pondered. Although it has temporarily disappeared, its influence remains. The beings in the Yuandao province are completely unaware that 10 years of their time have been consumed. Even though the avatar knew the established facts, he still couldn't detect anything unusual. The power of distorted perception is so formidable. The reason I was able to quickly perceive it is not because I have freed myself from its influence, but because my perception is based on the experience of being consumed by 10 years of time in the 12th return, not in this life. Although its power is strong, it cannot penetrate time. With these thoughts, Li Fan deeply exhaled a breath of turbid air. The slight shadows brought by it in his heart gradually dissipated. For now, it seems that as long as I eliminate the traces left by it on me, there shouldn't be much of a problem. TL note. Hey guys, Google AdSense keeps rejecting this site again and again. If you want to support, please consider joining Patreon. Go to Fantasy Stories 797. 20 advanced chapters are available for Patreons. Chapter 394, Insights into Chaos. TL note. Join Patreon to read 20 advanced chapters. Please go to Patreon. At this moment, it's not urgent. Wait until you return to the peak of Dissociation Mountain, and during the 9 years waiting for truth to fully recharge, it will be the perfect time to do this. As for what is hovering above Yuandao province, perhaps only when I achieve the status of immortal sage in the future, will I be able to explore its true nature. Before that, it's best to avoid it. One worry was temporarily resolved. As this world was nearing its end, Li Fan sorted out his current situation. In over a decade of uninterrupted days of setting up formations, Li Fan, with the secret technique of Tao of the Divine One, did not neglect other matters. He finally finished reading the Immortal medical classic. From this magnificent masterpiece, Li Fan could also glimpse the thoughts of the heavenly doctor. The heavenly doctor believed that everything in the world could be healed. From stones, plants, and animals, to people, mountains, lakes, and even the world itself. In the eyes of a true doctor, there was no essential difference. Practitioners, from small to large, constantly progressed. Perseverance would lead to the transformation from healing people to healing the world. Although the Immortal medical classic did not mention cultivation methods, there seemed to be many mysteries hidden between the lines. It's a pity my talent is still lacking. If I were a true genius, I might have been able to comprehend a technique from it. Perhaps I can use indirect methods. Li Fan squinted his eyes as a difficult thought flashed through his mind. Immediately, he suppressed it. Forget it, the risk is too high. The heavenly doctor is mysterious and unpredictable. If he were to discover that the Immortal medical classic is circulating in the world, who knows what kind of upheaval it might cause. Studying it myself will just take a little more time. Combining the understanding of sentient beings from the Immortal medical classic, Li Fan also continued to modify and improve the Creation Forge art. Master Tianyang's eternal remembrance still has one last chance of use. Currently, I don't have much confidence in successfully breaking through. I'll give it one last try when my life comes to an end. Zhang Ziliang's infinite method, I've gradually mastered its essence over the years. With continuous formation setups, my mastery of formations has made remarkable progress. Theoretical knowledge combined with practical application, now even an ordinary nascent soul formation master may not surpass me. Then there's the Xuanwang heart refinement mantra, and the life and death mystery technique. The combination of the two can rapidly increase the strength of the soul. Although I'm still in the process of recovery since the last trial, time is the one thing I'm not lacking. A blue crystal in Li Fan's sea of consciousness emitted a deep blue light. Under the blessing of his supernatural techniques, although Li Fan had learned many things, he remained undisturbed. Apart from those already mastered, there are two more things that are equally useful to me. With this in mind, Li Fan used his hand as a pen and swiftly wrote the word, chaos, in the void in front of him. It seemed that an unusual energy was converging towards the strokes of his pen. Li Fan closely watched the changes that occurred within. Unfortunately, it seemed that his comprehension was not enough, and the word, chaos, ultimately failed to take shape. After persisting for a moment, it dissipated without a trace. Chaos. He waved a 5 elements annihilation sword, wiping out the remaining breath, and Li Fan fell into contemplation. This chaos character was exactly the same as the one on the chaos character stone in the maze of chaos stone domain where Li Fan had been trapped before. Relying on copying the word chaos, Li Fan was able to open the passage of the mystery domain and escape. However, afterwards, Li Fan always felt that this chaos character was by no means simply a switch for the passage. The eerie scene at the center of the mystery domain seemed to be closely related to it. If I could comprehend it, no. I'm afraid that as long as I can reproduce this chaos character, it would be a supernatural power no less inferior to my great 5 elements annihilation sword. Aside from the chaos character, there are also scenes of the 5 elements returning to one that Li Fan observed not long ago, the great explosion destroying everything, and the scene of the Tianquan soul-locking formations, reversal of the 5 elements returning to one. Currently, my great 5 elements annihilation sword simply uses the generation of the 5 elements as its power. But in reality, the circulation of the 5 elements can produce immense destructive power. Perhaps I can combine this power of destruction to improve a new version of the great 5 elements annihilation sword. Li Fan pondered the power of the 5 elements in his dantian. In the mysterious world of Xuanwang, where different cultivation methods couldn't be practiced together, without the presence of good teachers and friends. All cultivation knowledge was a priceless treasure, and to obtain it, one had to pay a corresponding price. And those true secrets that were not passed down were even more deeply hidden in high towers, beyond reach. In such a cultivation world, Li Fan wanted to obtain power far beyond others, he had to rely on his own exploration. Unfortunately, before worldly matters could come to an end, just 2 days later, Li Fan was awakened by a message. It turned out to be a message sent by Qi Buyi. First, he asked about his recovery, then let him go to the 1,000-star monastery. Li Fan did not interrupt the process of insight, he just separated a strand of consciousness to control his journey. Next, you don't have to work so hard and personally participate in the construction of the array. Just follow the responsible person for inspection. Qi Buyi smiled and said to Li Fan, the one you'll be teaming up with is Wang Fusong. Since you're acquainted, it'll be convenient for you. Your points won't be much less than those who construct the array, and you can maintain your second position. Normally, this position wouldn't be assigned to competitive formation masters like you. But if it's you, I believe others won't say much. She spoke and handed over another records of 100 matters. The previous records of 100 matters and escape shuttle had been handed over when leaving the Five Elements cave, but this time it was different. There was no distribution information for various supplies, only a rough map of the states in the Xuanwang realm. It was very similar to the glimpse seen in the space of long-distance transmission arrays. You can check the details of the work in your colleagues through the records of 100 matters. Qi Buyi still diligently explained to Li Fan. Most of Li Fan's mind was focused on comprehending Tao, so he seemed somewhat absent-minded as he nodded along. Seeing this, Qi Buyi could only sigh inwardly. He's deteriorating more and more. It seems like his downfall is not far off. I wonder when those longevity treasures will be sent over. After bidding farewell to Qi Buyi, Li Fan contacted Wang Fusong through the records of 100 matters. Fatty's tone became even more polite. After the two met at the Tianjin State's transmission array square, they used the transmission array to arrive at the nearly completed soul-locking array in Landline State. This state was located in the extreme south of the Xuanwang realm and was relatively remote. They encountered several barriers along the way before finally arriving. Passing through countless white mist barriers made Li Fan, who was already aging, even more miserable. His eyes looked dull and lifeless. Although Li Fan was actually immersed in the comprehension of Tao, it didn't prevent others from misunderstanding him. At least Wang Fusong was somewhat nervous, fearing that Li Fan might die right beside him. Hee, you can rest as much as you want later, my friend. Leave everything to me. Wang Fusong said so. TL note. Hey guys, Google AdSense keeps rejecting this site again and again. If you want to support, please consider joining Patreon. Go to Fantasy Stories 797. 20 advanced chapters are available for Patreons. Chapter 395, Flames Rising from the Abyss. TL note. Join Patreon to read 20 advanced chapters. Please go to Patreon. Although Landline Province was located in a remote area, its natural scenery was quite peculiar. Towering stone pillar-like peaks hung in midair, resembling a forest of 1,000 needles. Beneath the floating mountains, the deep valley was a terrifying forbidden zone entirely composed of black ash. Even at this moment, flying thousands of feet above, Li Fan could still sense the unsettling aura emanating from below. Wang Fusong stood on the dust-crossing boat, surveying the scenery below. His expression couldn't help but change slightly, truly a desolate place. Compared to this ghostly place, the 10,000 miles of burning sands we saw earlier is nothing dangerous. Hearing this, Li Fan also looked towards the bottom of the deep valley. In the ocean of black ash, one could still see faint dark flames that had not been extinguished. From time to time, a gentle breeze would pick up a strand of black ash from the ocean, continuously fluttering and rising, crashing onto the dust-crossing boat where Li Fan was. The seemingly weightless ash, upon colliding with the protective barrier of the dust-crossing boat, caused violent fluctuations. As if hit by a great impact, a small hole appeared on the crimson light barrier. Then, wave after wave of ripples spread outwards. Even though only a bit of his consciousness was controlling his body, Li Fan was still stunned by the scene before him. He couldn't help but ask, what the hell is this black ash? Wang Fusong first controlled the dust-crossing boat to fly upwards, avoiding the rising ash from the deep valley, then explained, this is the residue left after the burning of the silent extinction flowing fire. All traces of life have disappeared, leaving only the power of extinction lingering. It's quite sinister, it's better to avoid it as much as possible. Before he could finish his words, the dust-crossing boat accelerated, rushing towards the central area of Landline Province. Looking at the seemingly endless, pitch-black, and desolate world below, Wang Fusong couldn't help but feel emotional. Fortunately, we used tens of thousands of peaks as an array to control the silent extinction flowing fire within Landline Province. Otherwise, the surrounding areas would have met the same fate. Silent extinction flowing fire. The aura of the black ash permeating the air made Li Fan, who was already at his limit, feel even more uncomfortable. He furrowed his brows and thought to himself. He seemed to have seen this name somewhere. In his sea of consciousness, the fragments of memory flashed with Tao patterns, and after a moment, snippets of phrases he had read before suddenly surfaced. Kangwu Province, 28 mountains and rivers. One night, in a certain year and month, it disappeared overnight, leaving only a bottomless abyss. The strange object of the earth, the Kangwoo mountain and river map, originated from this. After the disappearance of the mountains and rivers in Kangwoo province for the 9th year, black water-like flames surged from the abyss. The ferocious flames raged on, unable to be extinguished. People of that time called it the silent extinction flowing fire. Li Fan then asked, is it the black fire that emerged from the abyss in Kangwoo? Wang Fusong was slightly startled, then squinted his eyes, as if recalling something. After a long time, he nodded slightly, yes. After the appearance of the silent extinction flowing fire from the Kangwoo abyss, it spread towards the surrounding areas. Several provinces in a row suffered. It wasn't until near Landline province that it was brought under control. Li Fan was suddenly taken aback. Kangwoo province was in the southwest corner of the Xuanwang realm, while Landline province was almost directly south. The scope of the devastation caused by this silent extinction flowing fire seemed quite large. Young friend, don't worry. Since that time, the silent extinction flowing fire has not appeared again. The cause of this catastrophic disaster, which could be described as world-ending, is still a mystery. At first, the Alliance thought it was the 5 elders' doing. However, after on-site investigations, it was denied. That is the true might of heaven and earth. I'm afraid it's beyond the reach of cultivators. Wang Fusong casually shared his insights with Li Fan. Not long after, they reached their destination. Before inspecting the soul-locking array, let's first visit the resident official of Landline province. This senior was originally from our Tianyu province and has taken care of me a lot in the past. Now that we're here, we shouldn't neglect etiquette. Pointing to a sharp peak piercing through the clouds ahead, Wang Fusong said to Li Fan. Li Fan's thoughts turned, and he already guessed who the senior mentioned by Wang Fusong was. You mean, the former commander of the Tianyu province garrison, Senior Guan Xingshou. Wang Fusong nodded with a smile, then put away the dust-crossing boat and led everyone to fly towards a small courtyard at the top of the mountain. Since we're acquaintances, why be so formal? Come on in, I won't personally greet you, kid. From afar, a voice reached everyone's ears. In that case, thanks to Senior for your kindness. Wang Fusong's face lit up with a smile, responding repeatedly. He gestured for the other cultivators to wait at the door, while he and Li Fan entered the courtyard. The courtyard was quite simple, with only a single pine tree standing. Beneath it, a middle-aged cultivator was leisurely lying on a long bench, gently swaying. Holding a palm leaf fan, he would occasionally fan it a few times. Long time no see, Senior, you're as splendid as ever. Wang Fusong bowed in respect. Li Fan also followed suit and said, greetings, Senior Guan. Your name is Li Fan, right? I've heard about you. Guan Xingshou glanced at Li Fan, a playful expression on his face. Your perseverance is much stronger than mine. Li Fan's heart skipped a beat, and he replied modestly, hee, Senior is too kind. Wang Fusong chimed in at this point, although Li Fan is diligent, compared to Senior, he still falls short. Who in Tianyu province doesn't know? Before he could finish his sentence, Guan Xingshou interrupted him. Kid, heroes don't dwell on past glories. I'm now down and out like this, yet you're here to boast about my past achievements. What's your intention? Guan Xingshou's gaze swept over Wang Fusong, his expression showing displeasure. Wang Fusong didn't expect his flattery to backfire. He awkwardly said, Senior, you know me. Even if you lend me your courage, I wouldn't dare oppose you. Guan Xingshou snorted coldly, but his expression returned to normal. With a somewhat bored tone, he said, you kid, you're really boring. Alright, I haven't seen old friends in this place for a long time. It's not bad that you came to visit. I already understand what you mean, so go ahead boldly. With me here, Landline province's small piece of land won't be turned upside down. Finishing his words, Guan Xingshou lightly waved the palm leaf fan in his hand. Suddenly, a small golden sword appeared and flew into Wang Fusong's hand. It's been a long time since I've shown myself to everyone. I want to see if there's really someone who wants to test whether my sword is sharp. Guan Xingshou said with great joy. Wang Fusong was overjoyed and quickly said, thank you, Senior. By the way, as he put away the golden flying sword, Wang Fusong wanted to say something else. But he was stopped by Guan Xingshou. I've seriously considered Senior Ji's opinion. But now I'm just a nascent soul cultivator, and I won't be of much help even if I go. Besides, the former leader has passed away, and the position of commander has been settled. I have no intention of competing for anything anymore. You can go now. With that, Guan Xingqiu waved his palm leaf fan. After a gust of wind, Li Fan and Wang Fusong found themselves outside the courtyard. TL note. Hey guys, Google AdSense keeps rejecting this site again and again. If you want to support, please consider joining Patreon. Go to Fantasy Stories 797. 20 advanced chapters are available for Patreons. Chapter 396, Reunion after 10 years. TL note. Please disable ad blocker. If you don't want ads, join Patreon to read 20 advanced chapters. Please go to Patreon. Join Discord. Although there was some regret on Wang Fusong's face, it was apparent that the purpose of this trip had been achieved. Let's go. With the Guan Xingqiu's falling star divine sword protecting us, we'll definitely be safe on this journey, he said. He summoned the dust-crossing boat again, unable to contain his joy. Recalling the conversation between the two in the courtyard just now, Li Fan pondered, has the resistance movement in the area become so serious? Do we really need to seek protection? Wang Fusong said, better safe than sorry. Anything can happen in this remote place. If things go awry and we're both implicated, we can just throw everything into the abyss and claim it was an accident. What else can we do? With Guan Xingqiu protecting us, it's different. Wang Fusong looked pleased, although he only has the cultivation of soul transformation now. Falling from the Tao integration realm to the soul transformation realm makes him much more powerful than ordinary soul transformation cultivators. At least, in Landline province where there's no Tao ancestor sitting in power. With the falling star divine sword, Guan Xingqiu can suppress everything. The chubby man took out the golden sword again, fondling it lovingly. Li Fan stared at the falling star divine sword, faintly feeling a soaring momentum from it. Recalling the lazy appearance he had just seen, he couldn't help but feel emotional. A generation of Tao integration experts, yet he ended up in such a state just because he failed to see the situation clearly. Then he remembered Guan Xingqiu's words and couldn't help asking, earlier, Senior Guan said that the old leader had passed away. Does that mean Immortal Sage Jicheng has fallen? Yes, not long ago. He eventually died quietly in his own heavenly extreme courtyard, along with that willow tree. The aged face of Immortal Sage Jicheng appeared in Li Fan's mind. If it weren't for truth, I'm afraid I would be waiting for death in fear, just like him, before long. What does it matter if one reaches the level of Tao integration? Without achieving longevity, it's all futile. As if the emotions brought by the fall of the old Tao integration expert had opened the floodgates, Wang Fusong put away the falling star divine sword and sighed. Perhaps Guan Xingqiu's despair is also related to this matter. Despite controlling the foundation of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's garrison for 500 years, Immortal Sage Jicheng still had no hope of longevity. It shows how difficult it is to defy the laws of heaven and earth. For Guan Xingqiu, who has been stripped of his cultivation and wants to start again from the soul transformation realm, it's even more difficult. You know, to achieve Tao integration again, one must rely on a similar heavenly and earthly essence as before. Such essence is rare, and if there are specific requirements for its nature, it becomes almost impossible. In the chat with Wang Fusong, the dust-crossing boat reached the central core area of the locking spirit array, where the designated position for the Tianxuan array hub was to be placed. The formation was not yet fully constructed and would require some time to complete. Except for the formation masters from the Universal Branch Academy, the other cultivators were not very friendly towards Wang Fusong and Li Fan upon their arrival. At least it seemed so. However, after Wang Fusong released the falling star divine sword, these cultivators had to restrain themselves. At the same time, in Shilin province, near the former Kong Yun Sea, now the Kong Yun Abyss, Zhang Haobo looked at the endless void not far away, his face filled with sorrow. Although he had seen this scene more than once, he still found it hard to accept. His hometown, the ocean that was once azure and full of life. Seeing it again, it had turned into this. Haobo, my condolences. Xiao Heng came over, patting his shoulder and consoling him. What happened back then? How could the vast Kong Yun Sea suddenly become like this? Zhang Haobo couldn't help asking again. Xiao Heng shook his head, I don't know either. When Senior Skull suddenly warned that the Kong Yun Sea might face a catastrophe, shortly after you left for Jushan province, I also left the Kong Yun Sea. But Yi Feipeng seemed to know something and insisted on not leaving with me. I originally thought he was hiding something from me, but since then, he has never appeared again. I think he should have long passed away by now. If I had known, I should have advised him back then. Xiao Heng's eyes showed a trace of sadness. After a long silence, he continued. In recent years, I have tried to inquire about the changes in the Kongyan Sea. But what surprised me is that, in less than a year, most cultivators have almost no impression of the Kongyan Sea. It's as if this area has never existed. Even now, I only remember the existence of the Kongyan Sea when I look at the abyss in front of me. Zhang Haobo said, I feel the same. In Jushan Prefecture for nearly 10 years, I haven't had a single memory of the Kongyan Sea. It was only after coming back to find you that, seeing the Kongyan abyss, memories of the past surged like a tide. He paused and whispered, this should be the influence of the Lord of Eternal Life. Xiao Heng also nodded slightly, perhaps not long from now, the memories in our minds will completely disappear, just like the former Kongyan Sea, gone forever. The two looked at each other in silence. By the edge of the abyss, there was silence. Not long after, the silence was interrupted by a distant rumbling. They turned around and found that Su Xiaomei and Su Changyu were sparring again. Brother, be careful, Su Xiaomei showed a sinister smile towards Su Changyu. In an instant, dozens of figures with different costumes appeared, surrounding Su Changyu. These figures held different weapons but had no faces. Each blank face had various blood-red symbols circulating. Watch this move, can you block it? These faceless figures with blood-red symbols on their faces laughed in unison with strange and eerie tones. The weapons in their hands emitted faint blood-colored light. Countless blood-red attacks, accompanied by their laughter, were about to bombard Su Changyu. Instead of panicking, Su Changyu closed his eyes. As the blood-colored light approached him, he extended his right hand, radiating a bright white light. Moving at an extremely high speed, in an instant, a scene of 1,000 hands appearing simultaneously emerged. Each illusion hand grasped the incoming blood-colored light. Then simultaneously exerted force. In an instant, the blood-colored brilliance reversed its direction. It attacked the dozens of faceless figures instead. Boom! The situation reversed in an instant. Caught off guard, those figures were hit by their own attacks. Many figures disappeared. However, one of them, after being hit by a blood-colored attack, remained unharmed. Taking advantage of the explosion's glare, it quietly approached Su Changyu. Its form exploded. A flaming giant net was about to envelop Su Changyu. Su Changyu's expression remained unchanged, but he suddenly opened his eyes. Each eyeball had 2 pupils. The 4 black holes had shrunk to the size of a needlepoint. The flames burning in front of him were instantly halted. Su Changyu then slapped his hand. However, his target was not the flames before him. It was Su Xiaomei, who was secretly hidden. Bang, bang, bang. Illusory palm shadows appeared one after another, and explosions sounded all around. You can't hit me. Su Xiaomei's voice came from all directions, unpredictable like a ghost. Oh, a smile appeared at the corner of Su Changyu's mouth. A transparent giant palm had formed high in the sky at some point. It completely enveloped the battlefield where the two were. Then it pressed down. Boom! The earth sank, raising dust. A huge handprint landed on the ground. And Su Xiaomei, hiding within it, could no longer hide. She was grabbed out by the illusory fingers and suspended in midair. Let go of me! Su Xiaomei roared. Her eyes turned crimson, and the fingers she clenched slightly loosened, showing signs of breaking free. Su Changyu stretched out his right hand and squeezed it from a distance. Another illusory giant palm appeared. It overlapped with the previous transparent palm. As a result, Su Xiaomei was once again suppressed. Ah, so annoying. Su Xiaomei's innate divine power continued to surge. Her hair gradually turned reddish, and the surrounding air twisted due to the heat. But no matter how she struggled, she couldn't break free from the suppression of the giant palm. I surrender. With Su Xiaomei's roar, an inexplicable red sun appeared in the sky. The illusion of the giant palm dissipated under the burning of the red sun. Although Su Xiaomei regained her freedom, there was no joy on her face. She retracted her own red sun cave domain. Scratching her head, she flew to Su Changyu's side. Brother, how did you become so powerful? She asked curiously. I suppressed my cultivation to the Golden Core realm. Now, you're no match for me, he replied. She asked with some curiosity. When we left the Kongyan Sea, the Yin Yuding sisters discovered remnants of ancient Dao runes. After these years of recovery, I have been able to experience a complete strand of Dao runes. Just now, this move, Suppression Palm, was what I comprehended from the Dao runes. Little sister, your comprehension far exceeds mine. I believe you can comprehend even stronger divine abilities from it. When we left the Kong Yun Sea, the Yin Yuting sisters discovered remnants of ancient Dao runes. As Su Chengyu spoke, an identical voice echoed simultaneously, creating a strange echo, but as he slowly closed his eyes, the other echo grew weaker and weaker, until it was barely audible. Su Chengyu explained that this was due to his special cultivation technique, which Su Xiaomei and the others had gradually become accustomed to. Great, I want to comprehend this divine ability too. She heard Su Chengyu's words and clapped her hands happily. Even without opening his eyes, Su Chengyu could clearly see the appearance of his long-lost sister in front of him. Although she had reached the nascent soul realm, she still seemed like a child who hadn't grown up. Thinking of this, Su Chengyu affectionately rubbed Su Xiaomei's head. After more than a decade apart, everyone is finally reunited. Xiao Heng, who was watching the scene, couldn't help but feel relieved. Suddenly, he sensed a slight fluctuation from the bone ring that hadn't been used for a long time, and his face lit up with joy. Ever since the warning from the Skull Senior, which saved everyone's lives, it had fallen into a deep sleep again. Could it be that it was finally waking up now? Without delay, Xiao Heng eagerly entered the realm of White Bone Pioneer. If you want to support, please consider joining Patreon. Go to Fantasy Stories 797-20 advanced chapters are available for Patreons. Chapter 397, The Inheritance of Returning to Immortality. TL note, please disable ad blocker. If you don't want ads, join Patreon to read 20 advanced chapters. Please go to Patreon. Join Discord. After a bout of dizziness, Xiao Heng, who finally saw the surrounding scenery clearly, was greatly shocked. The surroundings of the Bone Pioneer realm were in a mess, with traces of battles everywhere. The once magnificent scenery now appeared somewhat ruined. Senior Skull, Xiao Heng's heart tightened, hastily rushing towards the resting place of the Senior Skull. However, the closer he got, the more prominent the traces of battle became. The smooth white bones were now pockmarked all over. An ominous premonition grew stronger, and when Xiao Heng arrived, he couldn't help but freeze completely. As if a violent explosion had occurred, there was no trace of the Senior Skull. Only a pitch-black deep pit remained, telling of the recent fierce battle that seemed to have taken place here. What on earth happened? Xiao Heng's expression became somewhat unsightly. Could it be that the 10,000 Immortals Alliance has caught up? Recalling the instructions from the Senior Skull before his slumber, Xiao Heng subconsciously thought. Xiao Heng, who had been wandering in Shilin province for more than a decade, was no longer the ignorant youth he once was in the cultivation world. It was precisely because of this that his heart grew even colder. When he was at the Qi condensation stage, he dared to utter the heroic words of overthrowing the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and reviving the glory of reclaiming eternity, which is our unshirkable duty. But now, as a golden core stage cultivator, he dared not boast so recklessly anymore. The senior's instructions were, if he couldn't be contacted, it meant this place had been exposed. For safety's sake, destroy the hand bone as soon as possible and cut off all connections with this place. Although he felt somewhat reluctant, Xiao Heng was not a vacillating person. Before leaving, he thoroughly searched the Bone Pioneer realm one last time. To Xiao Heng's surprise, the bone altar in the secret realm seemed to have not been completely destroyed. There were still faintly familiar fluctuations emanating from it. Xiao Heng's heart stirred, calling out according to the method he had prayed before. Senior Skull. After a moment, the figure of the Senior Skull did appear above the ruins of the altar. Xiao Heng was extremely excited, but in an instant, he calmed down. Because what stood before him was just an illusion. Xiao lad, I didn't have time to bid you farewell. I didn't expect that, hiding here for so long, they still wouldn't give up on their plans against me. If you can see this image, it means I have met an unfortunate end. Even though he was mentally prepared, hearing the Senior Skull speak these words personally, Xiao Heng's eyes still reddened involuntarily. Although I led them away before I fell into slumber, avoiding your exposure. But it's not safe here anymore. After you go back, cut off the connection with this place and never come back. I left 4 little Medicine King cauldrons for you in the altar. They are keys to entering the true Medicine King cauldron. Thousands of years ago, the Lord of the Medicine King sect, Lu Rushan, led all the members of the Medicine King sect to break through the boundaries. But more than 10 years ago, I sensed that they had returned to the Xuanwang realm. It was that fiery meteor that ultimately fell into the abyss of the Kangwu. If everything goes as expected, something must have happened to the Medicine King sect. However, I sensed a great opportunity within the Medicine King cauldron. If you have the chance, you can explore it. Remember, there should be other little Medicine King cauldrons scattered outside. Perhaps others can use secret methods to sense their locations through these little Medicine King cauldrons. Be extremely careful of your own safety. If it's impossible, selling the little Medicine King cauldrons for a good price is also a good way out. Oh, there are some materials I scavenged back then stored in the little Medicine King cauldrons. Remember to retrieve them. Consider it my final gift to you. Remember, endure, lie low. Inheritance. After the senior skull's earnest words, the image disappeared completely. And 4 ancient small cauldrons appeared in front of Xiao Heng. Xiao Heng suppressed the sorrow in his heart and put away the small Medicine King cauldrons. Then, showing determination on his face, he left the Bone Pioneer realm. Xiao Heng, what's wrong? Su Xiaomei and the others, seeing Xiao Heng's red eyes, couldn't help but change their expressions. In front of everyone, the small hand bone, which served as the token for entry, was destroyed. Then Xiao Heng brought the members of Reclaiming Eternity to the secret room of the stronghold and requested that they do the same. Only after the connection with the Bone Pioneer realm was completely severed did Xiao Heng explain everything. The senior skull fell. Although the others were somewhat surprised, they weren't as sorrowful as Xiao Heng. After all, only Xiao Heng had contact with the senior skull. However, they couldn't separate the fact that they could embark on the path of cultivation smoothly from the care of the senior skull. The people of Reclaiming Eternity were not ungrateful. So at this moment, they all felt a bit sad. But that was it. What should we do next? After a moment of silence, a question was posed to everyone. Should they continue to maintain their identity as members of Reclaiming Eternity and resist the 10,000 Immortals Alliance? Or, after all, they could untwist the arm of a strongman. With their cultivation at the peak nascent soul stage, trying to overthrow the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, which had existed for thousands of years under the dominion of the Immortal Sage, was indeed somewhat ridiculous. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance isn't a good thing, Su Xiaomei expressed her opinion first. Once you join the Immortal Alliance, you're a cow or a horse for life. We can't join the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, Zhang Haobo echoed. Su Changyu, with his eyes closed, said calmly, I support Xiaomei. Xiao Heng looked at the decisions his companions made and couldn't help but feel moved. He deeply understood the vast disparity in power between Reclaiming Eternity and the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Originally, he had only planned to shoulder the mission of truth alone. But fortunately, the others didn't disappoint him. Just as he was about to speak, he heard a timid voice saying, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance isn't a good thing. Xiao Heng was taken aback. Looking in the direction of the voice, he saw a young, green-faced boy scratching the back of his head, his face flushed. Xiao Heng smiled and praised, Wu Yu, you're brave. The boy's face grew even hotter. This boy was none other than Han Wu Yu, the descendant of the 2 mortals who had fled from the Kong Yun Sea with Xiao Heng in the past. His parents had passed away due to illness some years ago, and he himself was raised by Xiao Heng, Su Changyu, and others. Han Wuyu had a decent aptitude for cultivation and embarked on the path of cultivation under Xiao Heng's guidance. At the age of 14, he was already at the late Qi condensation stage. After praising Han Wuyu, Xiao Heng turned his head. I understand everyone's intentions, but we cannot deny one thing, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance is indeed too powerful. With our current strength, trying to confront it head-on is tantamount to hitting a rock with an egg. What the senior said before his fall was right. Our main task is to endure and inherit. Xiao Heng's expression was resolute, his eyes firm. What is divided will eventually come together, and what is together will eventually fall apart. This is the great trend of heaven and earth. Mortal dynasties often have a limit of 500 years. Although the 10,000 Immortals Alliance is powerful, it has also inherited for thousands of years. As long as we pass down the ideals of Reclaiming Eternity, from generation to generation and wait quietly for the opportune moment, there will eventually come a time when the 10,000 Immortals Alliance encounters a major change and falls apart. That time will be our chance. Xiao Heng said slowly. Su Xiaomei chuckled, unconcerned. The others just nodded symbolically. Only Han Wuyu, with his eyes wide open, was full of hopeful light. Xiao Heng, didn't you say that the senior skull left you 4 small cauldrons? Hurry up and show them to me, let's see what treasures they are. Amidst the awkward silence, it was still Su Xiaomei who came to the rescue. Upon hearing this, Xiao Heng took a deep breath and took out the 4 small medicine king cauldrons, placing them in front of everyone. Su Xiaomei picked up one and examined it carefully. Is this it? It's shabby and doesn't look like anything good. Huh, there seems to be something hidden inside. After a moment, Su Xiaomei exclaimed. Wow, so many spirit stones. We're rich. And there are so many herbs. Haha, this is good stuff. Su Xiaomei tossed the small medicine king cauldron aside and happily put on a silver necklace. Then she showed several identical ones to everyone. Come on, everyone gets a share. Seeing this, Zhang Haobo's eyes lit up. Is this a necklace inscribed with an instant teleportation array? Su Xiaomei nodded repeatedly. That's it. During our time in the Chaoyuan sect, we escaped death several times because of it. As Su Xiaomei and the others put on the silver necklaces. Far away in Lanline province, Li Fan's eyes flashed with a light that others would hardly notice. With the help of the updated array, I can finally sense them again. He thought to himself. Under the surveillance of the formless killing intent, the scene of the gathering and discussion of the people in the other realm suddenly appeared in Li Fan's mind. Xiao Heng, what do you think of the opportunity that the senior skull mentioned about the Medicine King True Cauldron? Su Chengyu took back the small cauldron that Su Xiaomei had thrown to the ground, rearranged it neatly, and asked in a deep voice. Xiao Heng hesitated for a moment upon hearing this. But Su Xiaomei, always one to enjoy the excitement, didn't think it was a big deal. Why even think about it? How can you give up when the opportunity is right in front of you? If it weren't for the adventures in the Chaoyuan sect, Haobo and I would still be in the Golden Core realm. Zhang Haobo squinted, nodding in agreement. After pondering for a moment, Xiao Heng said slowly, the senior skull accurately predicted the drastic changes in the Kong Yun Sea before his death. I believe the opportunity of the Kangwu Abyss Medicine King Cauldron must be genuine. But, for some reason, Xiao Heng became somewhat hesitant. Seeing this, Su Xiaomei immediately became exasperated. Xiao Heng, you're not going to back out again, are you? Last time, when Haobo and I wanted to go to the Chaoyuan sect, you didn't agree. If you do this again, I'll be really angry. Xiao Heng, Xiao Heng smiled bitterly, about to explain. But Su Chengyu calmly interjected, if what the senior said is correct, then this small Medicine King Cauldron is the key to entering the Medicine King True Cauldron. It would be best for all 4 of us to go together. Su Xiaomei nodded repeatedly, but Su Chengyu's tone changed. However, we cannot all go. Wu Yu is still young and needs someone to take care of him. Zhao Erbao and the Yin sisters are out searching for treasures, and useful things come back from time to time. These things need someone to take care of them. TL note. Reclaiming Eternity will be changed to Rebirth Immortal. If you want to support, please consider joining Patreon. Go to Fantasy Stories 797. 20 advanced chapters are available for Patreons. Chapter 398. Depths of 300,000 feet. TL note. Please disable ad blocker. If you don't want ads, join Patreon to read 20 advanced chapters. Please go to Patreon. Su Chengyu still had something he hadn't said. Exploring opportunities wasn't without risks. If they all went together, and ultimately ended up wiped out, wouldn't the legacy of the Rebirth Immortal be cut off forever? This was the point that weighed most heavily on Xiao Heng's mind. But Su Chengyu could see that, at this moment, everyone present besides Xiao Heng didn't place much importance on the Rebirth Immortal. At least, compared to their own cultivation, the so-called Rebirth Immortal legacy was simply not worth mentioning. Xiao Heng might not be unaware of this point in his heart. However, he had his own principles and did not force others, so it was not easy for him to say it directly. Although Su Chengyu's eyes had remained closed, he was aware of the thoughts of everyone in the field. So he took the initiative to break the ice. How about this, Xiao Heng, little sister, and Zhang Haobo, you 3 go together to the Kangwu Abyss. As for me, I'll stay here. Before Su Xiaomei could object, he continued to explain, the cultivation method I practice is special. The so-called opportunities are actually of little use to me. So you don't have to worry about it. Upon hearing this, Xiao Heng gave Su Chengyu a grateful look. Su Xiaomei, however, turned her head away in a fit of pique, refusing to look at Su Chengyu. However, little sister still trusted Su Chengyu's words. Now that he had made the decision, the matter was practically settled. Then there's just one more little Medicine King Cauldron. Could it be that, as the senior said, we should sell it? Zhang Haobo asked, frowning. No, Su Changyu shook his head in denial. Carrying the little Medicine King cauldron is already a crime. If we expose our knowledge of this true Medicine King cauldron for the sake of a little profit, it would be unwise. It's better to keep it, and when the time is right, throw it out as bait to distract the enemy. Xiao Heng also agreed with Su Changyu's words. Although it's a bit of a pity, this is also the most stable approach. Whatever, you guys decide anyway, Su Xiaomei snorted, no longer objecting. She grabbed Han Wuyu and went outside to play. The journey to the Kangwu Abyss is long. We are not 10,000 Immortals Alliance cultivators, so we cannot use the teleportation array. If we fly with our physical bodies, it would take too long, and we might have unforeseen accidents along the way. We need to come up with a good plan. Xiao Heng stroked his chin, frowning as he spoke. That, Zhang Haobo hesitated. What? Xiao Heng looked at Zhang Haobo with some surprise. The teleportation array, maybe we can use it too. Zhang Haobo explained. You know, during our exploration in Jushan province, we met Senior Shuafeng. On our trip to Chaoyuan sect, we even fought our way out of a mountain of corpses and blood together. We can be considered close friends. When we parted ways, Senior Shuafeng invited us to join the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, although we declined. But he still expressed understanding and left a jade token for little sister. With that jade token, we should have no problem using the teleportation array. Xiao Heng nodded upon hearing this, that would be best. He thought that Zhang Haobo's previous hesitation was because Shuafeng was a 10,000 Immortals Alliance cultivator. Xiao Heng said solemnly, I am not someone who is inflexible. Our enemy is the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, not every individual within the alliance. If we can befriend 10,000 Immortals Alliance cultivators and undermine them from within, it would be a win-win situation. Why would I object? I'll go find little sister and talk to her about this. With that, Xiao Heng left to find Su Xiaomei. Zhang Haobo watched Xiao Heng's back and shook his head helplessly. What, is there something going on between little sister and that Shuafeng? It was Su Changyu who noticed Zhang Haobo's meaning and asked with interest. Who knows, anyway, I see them getting along like a house on fire. That Shuafeng, although he has now returned to nascent soul cultivation, doesn't mind little sister's cultivation. Sigh, this kid Xiao Heng, he has no sense of crisis at all. Su Changyu chuckled, you worry too much. In my opinion, little sister's heart may not be on matters of love. Zhang Haobo was also speechless, shaking his head. Years had passed, and the little kids from back then seemed to have all grown up. Yet, there were still some things that remained unchanged. Li Fan couldn't help but feel a sense of nostalgia, and he suddenly thought of his children from his previous lives. I'm getting old, he murmured to himself. Then, quickly, Li Fan suppressed this emotion. As for Xiao Heng, it took a lot of effort to coax Su Xiaomei into a cheerful mood and agree to hand over Shuafeng's jade token. After a few days of preparation, Xiao Heng, Su Xiaomei, and Zhang Haobo set off on their journey to the Kangwu province. Han Wuyu's big eyes were filled with envy. He waved goodbye to them. Su Changyu's eyelids twitched violently, as if he wanted to open his eyes. But his expression remained calm and serene. Until the very end, he did not open his heavy eyes. Shuafeng's jade token really worked. Even though they were not 10,000 Immortals Alliance cultivators, Xiao Heng and the others were able to enter the Shailan Immortal City without any obstacles. Xiao Heng tightly held back Su Xiaomei, who was very curious and wanted to go sightseeing. With some trepidation in his heart, he activated the teleportation array. They teleported to the border of Shailan province, crossed the white mist barrier, and arrived in Yuandao province. Then, they continuously used the teleportation array to head towards the Kangwu Abyss, in the southwestern corner of the Xuanwang world. Thus, after more than half a month, when Li Fan began to inspect the Tianshuan soul-locking formation in Lanline province, Xiao Heng and his group finally reached their destination. It seems that Lanline province is indeed not far from the Kangwu Abyss. Even without using the sensing formation, my formless killing intent can sense the scene. With the help of their eyes, Li Fan was finally able to see the Kangwu Abyss, which had been famous for so long, with his own eyes. Unlike the Kongyan Abyss, which had completely turned into nothingness, this Kangwu Abyss was more like a wasteland of the Great Zon. Below towering cliffs was an endless valley. Above the valley, crimson clouds swirled, their ends nowhere to be seen. Many birds and beasts soared through the clouds. And on the cliff walls, at intervals downward, there were many buildings built against the mountain, extending deep into the mountain. The Kangwoo Abyss was formed many years ago when the mountains and rivers of the Kangwoo province all disappeared, creating this unique landform. Therefore, the abyss has its own boundary, shaped like a footprint. It has been explored down to about 300,000 feet, but the bottom is still far from sight. The Kangwoo Abyss is not empty, but has its own appearance. The first layer, from the ground to 30,000 feet underground. Many strange beasts inhabit the Kangwoo clouds and the cliffs of the abyss. These beasts can swallow gold and spit lightning, and they are very powerful. They are fearless of death and travel in packs. You must be careful to avoid them. The second layer, from 30,000 feet to 80,000 feet underground. Su Xiaomei read aloud from the jade slip that was given for free outside the Kangwoo Abyss, her eyes wide with wonder. So big, so deep. Then even if the Medicine King Cauldron is really in this Kangwoo Abyss, we won't be able to find it, right? She sent a voice transmission. But Xiao Heng's heart stirred. He used the little Medicine King Cauldron in his storage ring to sense. Sure enough, in a certain location at the very bottom of the abyss, something was echoing with the little Medicine King Cauldron. Next chapter. If you want to support, please consider joining Patreon. Go to Fantasy Stories 797. 20 advanced chapters are available for Patreons. Chapter 399. TL Note. Please disable ad blocker. If you don't want ads, join Patreon to read 20 advanced chapters. Please go to Patreon. Join Discord. Senior Skull's words were indeed true. These broken cauldrons are indeed the keys to entering the Medicine King True Cauldron. When Xiao Heng informed Su Xiaomei of this discovery, she couldn't help but smile with joy. Now, this is good. As long as we follow the guidance, we should be able to find it soon. The three exchanged glances and then, sticking close to the edge of the abyss cliff, discreetly flew towards the depths below Kangwoo Abyss. Once they descended to about 200 jong above the ground, the scenery inside the abyss began to change drastically from the surface. Due to the perennial presence of clouds and mist above, the further down they went, the darker the surroundings became. The cliff walls were no longer bare rocks but were rooted with many strange plants. There were luminous fine willows, predatory pines disguised as rocks, and even lurking like giant pythons, waiting to attack when prey approached, were the withered black tall trees. Accompanying these plants was the previously mentioned exotic beasts that needed to be guarded against. Most of these exotic beasts were pitch black, making them difficult to discern in the dim abyss. Their appearances were extremely bizarre, completely different from surface creatures. They didn't seem naturally evolved but rather forcibly pieced together from fragments of various creatures. Long worms that split in the middle and prayed with open mouths. Strange apes with heads retracted into their stomachs. And bizarre birds with countless wriggling worms as wings. All sorts of grotesque forms chilled the observer. Moreover, within this abyss, there seemed to be some mysterious force. It suppressed the sensing range of cultivators' divine consciousness. This force became more prominent as they descended deeper. During the cultivators' descent, these strange creatures would suddenly emerge either from the abyss cliff walls or from the void in the center of the abyss. They would launch attacks in groups at the cultivators as if they harbored deep enmity towards outsiders. These attacks from the anomalies would only cease upon their complete death. Fortunately, although there were numerous beings below the abyss, their strength was equivalent to the late Foundation establishment stage at most. For Su Xiaomei's group, whose lowest strength was at the Golden Core stage, they posed no real threat. With no major obstacles along the way, after nearly half a day, they finally approached a huge boundary monument embedded in the cliff wall. Written on it in strikingly glowing red characters were the words, 30,000, visible from afar. And on this boundary monument, the continuous cliff wall was almost hollowed out inward, constructing a splendid city suspended above the abyss. This is the first resting point for exploring Kangwoo Abyss. Linkang City. Going further down, the abyss becomes increasingly dangerous. So, providing a place for rest and replenishment here is very necessary. Xiao Heng looked at the endless stream of cultivators passing by, silently raising his vigilance. Most of the cultivators who came to explore Kangwoo Abyss were not easy opponents. Their purpose in coming here, besides collecting the valuable specialties of Kangwoo Abyss, was mostly to seek the fire meteor that fell from the sky that year. In recent years, there have been various speculations about the true identity of the fire meteor. It being the Medicine King True Cauldron that broke through ancient boundaries during the ancient era is just one of the widely circulated guesses. Regardless, it made all the cultivators who witnessed it feel a sense of awe. This fire meteor must be extraordinary. As the saying goes, where there's wealth, there's death. So it's not hard to understand why there are always outside cultivators tirelessly searching for it. Let's go. Xiao Heng and the others did not enter Linkang City. Straightforwardly flying past the boundary monument, they arrived at the second level, 30,000 zhang below the surface. The moment they passed the boundary monument, it felt like passing through an invisible barrier. An unusual feeling surged in Xiao Heng's heart. My strength has indeed weakened a bit, just as rumored. Feeling somewhat heavy-hearted, Xiao Heng inquired of Su Xiaomei and Zhang Haobo. Have you noticed the existence of the Immortal Suppression Force? Yes, indeed, there's a hint of it. But for now, the impact isn't too significant. After a moment, both Su Xiaomei and Zhang Haobo responded this way. It seems that my strength has indeed weakened. Seeing this, Xiao Heng felt somewhat helpless. He could only hope that the location of the Medicine King True Cauldron would be within the range he could dive to. The Immortal Suppression Force is the term used by cultivators to collectively refer to the mysterious force enveloping the Kangwu Abyss. Specifically, as one delves deeper into the Kangwu Abyss, the strength of cultivators will also be correspondingly reduced. Within the first level of 30,000 zhang, it's still not very apparent. It only interferes with the coverage range of divine consciousness. But upon entering the second level, the effect becomes immediately apparent. Mid-foundation establishment and below, once they enter, they will become no different from mortals. Their spiritual power cannot be mobilized, and they lose the ability to fly. There's only one outcome: falling to the bottomless abyss without resistance, becoming food for the strange creatures along the way. This means that at least cultivators at the late foundation establishment stage can survive on the second level of Kangwu Abyss. However, in reality, as the depth increases, the creatures in the abyss are becoming stronger. While cultivators' strength continues to be suppressed. This also leads to the exploration becoming increasingly difficult as they descend. Xiao Heng and his group proceeded with even more caution into the second level, the spirit language forest. The trees deeply rooted in the abyss cliff walls extended their branches toward the void of Kangwu Abyss in an unreasonable manner, forming a primitive forest that stretches endlessly, occupying a space of 50,000 zhang vertically. In addition to the increasingly diverse and powerful dangerous creatures, the murmurs emanating from the forest from time to time were even more lethal. These sounds would induce various illusions in cultivators, causing them to lose their minds. Those with weak wills would fly towards the center of the spirit language forest as if they had lost their souls. Ultimately unable to return, Xiao Heng and his group were all outstanding individuals with equally strong wills. Moreover, their strengths were indeed formidable, so it took them almost a day to successfully traverse the second level. They descended to a depth of 80,000 zhang. Here, the dense forest suddenly became sparse. There seemed to be another source of light below, and the visibility suddenly became clear. Instead of standing stone monuments like before, the boundary marker was now a giant eyeball growing on the cliff wall. The pupil in the center of the eyeball was replaced by the two blood-red characters, 80,000. This eyeball seemed to be alive, constantly rotating and peering. At this moment, sensing someone's arrival from above, it instantly focused its gaze on Xiao Heng and his group. A tremendous pressure came, causing Xiao Heng's body to tense up in an instant. Fortunately, the giant eye only glanced at them briefly before shifting its gaze away, no longer paying them much attention. Phew, Xiao Heng let out a sigh of relief. The second resting point of Kangwu Abyss, the Giant Eye City. If you want to support, please consider joining Patreon. Go to Fantasy Stories 797. 20 advanced chapters are available for Patreons.